The first time Dad called Travis the farmer of the family, my right hand was inside a plastic trash bag, holding a paper plate covered in barbecue sauce. He had tapped his beer bottle with a fork until the machine shed quieted. Then he put one arm around my brother, pulled him close, and said, "This is the one who'll keep the Mercer place going." Everybody looked at Travis. Nobody looked at the wet red mud drying on my boots. "He's the farmer of the family," Dad said. "Always has been." People laughed and raised their drinks. Travis ducked his head like praise embarrassed him, though praise had never once managed that. Dad pointed the bottle at me. "And Leah will keep him organized. Lord knows somebody has to." That got a bigger laugh. Travis glanced at me, smiling, waiting for me to play along. I usually did. Then he picked up a folded feed store calendar and began telling the room what he planned to do with my north pasture. At 4:18 the next morning, under the yellow light above my barn, I swung the north gate shut. I looped the same rusty chain through the same steel bars as always. The only new thing was the lock. 6 hours before the toast, I was kneeling behind a red heifer while she tried to kick my shoulder through my ear. "Easy," I told her. "I'm not enjoying this either." She disagreed loudly. The heifer had chosen the lowest, muddiest corner of the calving lot to get into trouble. One hoof was showing where two should have been, and every time I tried to find the other leg, she tightened around my arm like she was determined to keep both the calf and my hand. I had been halfway through hanging string lights in the machine shed when I noticed her circling. Travis was supposed to be watching the close cows. He was also supposed to pick up the ice, move folding chairs from the church hall, and bring Dad home before Carol saw him carrying anything heavier than a napkin on the afternoon of his retirement supper. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. Mom flashed on the screen. I let it buzz. "Come on, girl." I rested my forehead against the heifer's hip. "Your timing is worse than mine." I found the second hoof, got the chains placed, and leaned back with my boots braced against a gatepost. The calf slid free in a rush of fluid, mud, and enough indignity to remind me why cattle never appeared in greeting card paintings from this angle. For half a second, nothing happened. Then the calf coughed. "Well," I said, sitting hard in the mud, "you're welcome." The heifer stood, turned, and began cleaning him as if I had contributed nothing. That felt familiar. My phone buzzed again, then it rang a third time. I pulled off one glove with my teeth. "Hey, Mom, where are you?" "France. Leah. Calving lot." There was a pause. Mom knew enough about cattle to hear what I wasn't saying, but she also knew enough about parties to stay focused on her emergency. The green tablecloths have wrinkles. Then they'll match the guests. I'm serious. So am I. Your Aunt Elaine is bringing that woman from her walking group, the one with the hair. Everybody had hair, but I knew exactly who she meant. I'll iron them. And the tea is too strong. Put more water in it. Your father keeps trying to come outside. Lock the door. She sighed with the patience of a woman who had been given a particularly slow daughter. "Have you heard from Travis?" "No. He said he'd be here by 2. I looked toward the machine shed. The double doors stood open, showing 3 long rows of empty tables, half a ceiling of lights, and the silver anniversary banner Mom had bought before I reminded her this was not an anniversary. It now read, "Happy Retirement, Dean," with a strip of duct tape covering 40 years. "What time is it?" I asked. 2:20. He'll be here. You always say that, because he usually was, eventually, and because, if I didn't say it, Mom would keep talking until he arrived. The heifer gave me a suspicious look as I stood. The calf was already trying to get his front legs underneath him. "Make sure your boots are clean before you come in," Mom said. I looked down at myself. "I'll burn them." She hung up without saying goodbye. The north gate stood at the far end of the lot, open against the fence. Beyond it, my pasture rolled up in a long green rise toward the barn and house I had bought with the old Jessup place 8 years earlier. Dean's side was flatter, with chewed-down grass and a lane leading to the original farmhouse. Nobody had planned for the gate to become permanent. Dad and Travis put it in after a spring flood took out part of our dividing fence. It made moving cattle easier, so I let it stay. Then Dad's cows started grazing my acreage in dry weather, then in regular weather, then Travis brought over a mineral feeder, then a squeeze chute. Each thing had made sense at the time. That was how most permanent arrangements got started in my family. Nobody announced them. They just left something on your side of the fence and waited to see if you carried it back. A truck horn sounded from the lane. Travis came around the machine shed in his white pickup, raising dust and towing nothing. He parked crooked, left the driver's door open, and climbed out wearing dark jeans, polished boots, and the blue pearl snap shirt Melanie liked on him. He looked ready to pose beside farm equipment he had never touched. "There you are," he said. "Here I am. I've been calling." "No, Mom has been calling. You've been not answering her." He patted his pockets, found his phone, and studied the screen. Powerful little device. He grinned at me. Travis had Dad's grin, wide, crooked, and confident that the next 5 seconds would forgive the previous 5 hours. "What happened to you?" "A cow." "Did you win?" "The calf's alive." "Then you won." He stepped closer and looked past me into the lot. His grin faded when he saw the heifer. "Was that 417? You mean the one on the list marked close in red?" "I checked her this morning. She must not have respected your schedule." "Hell, Leah, you should have called." "I did it." "That's not what I said." For a moment, he looked genuinely bothered. Not guilty exactly, but close enough to make guilt nervous. Then his gaze traveled back to my shirt. "Mom's gonna kill you, you think?" "I brought ice. You were also getting chairs." His face changed. "The chairs," he said. "The chairs. I knew there was something. Generally, there is." He shut his truck door, then opened it again to retrieve 2 bags of ice that had already started leaking. "I'll go back." "The church secretary left it too. We can use hay bales. For Dad's retirement supper? Rustic. For Aunt Elaine's hip replacement?" He considered that. Less rustic. I started toward my house to change. He followed, still carrying the ice. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Your freezer. Machine shed has a freezer. It's full of hamburger. Move the hamburger." Mom said not to. Then marry Mom and have this argument with her. I'm already married to a woman who has this argument with me. As if summoned, Melanie's SUV came up the lane. She parked properly, which was one of the ways you could tell she had married into our family. She stepped out in black pants and a sleeveless blouse, holding 3 covered trays. Melanie was 40. Quiet until she wasn't, and capable of making Travis behave with a single pause before his name. She looked at my clothes, then at Travis's. "What happened?" she asked me. "Calf." She turned to him. "I brought ice," he said. "Of course you did. I'm going back for chairs. I have 12 in the back." Travis brightened. "See? Partnership. 12, she repeated. Carol wanted 40. His face fell again. Melanie handed him the trays. "Take these to the shed. Keep them level. One is deviled eggs." "Which one?" "The one you'll regret dropping." When he walked away, she watched him for a few seconds. He forgot he was on cow watch, didn't he? He remembered the ice. "That bad?" 2 bags. She closed her eyes briefly. "I made him a list." "So did I. I put mine on the steering wheel. I put mine in his hand." She looked toward the calving lot where the new calf had finally found his legs. "Do you need help cleaning up?" That question almost got me. Not because I needed help, but because she had noticed there might be something to help with. "I've got it," I said. "I know you've got it." That was Melanie. She could make the same words mean something completely different from my mother. By 5:30, I had showered, changed into clean jeans, ironed the green tablecloths, diluted the tea, found 28 additional chairs in Dad's old livestock trailer, rehung the western row of lights, and convinced Mom that the duct tape on the anniversary banner could only be seen if a person had eyes. "It looks cheap," she said. "It was $6. That doesn't mean it has to look $6. Dad came through the side door carrying a crock pot. Mom spun around. "Dean, what are you doing?" "Walking." "With the beans?" "They can't walk. You're not supposed to be working. I'm carrying beans, Carol, not roofing the barn. It's your retirement. From what? Nobody answered that because we all knew Dad had sold 6 old cows, bought a new pair of work gloves, and started calling it retirement. He set the crock pot on the serving table and looked around. At 67, Dad was still broad through the shoulders, though his shirts hung looser around his waist than they used to. His gray hair had a permanent ridge from his cap. He wore the good boots Mom bought him 3 Christmases earlier, and the same faded belt he had worn to my college graduation. "You did all this?" he asked. "Mostly," I said. He nodded toward the lights. "Travis tell you my idea about running another strand down the middle?" "No. Would brighten it up. I'm out of hooks. There's a coffee can full in the shop. I know where they are." He missed, or ignored, the point. "We've got an hour," he said. "Wouldn't take long." Mom touched his arm. "Leave her alone. Leah likes being useful." She meant it as praise. Dad smiled at me. "She's always been my steady one." There were sentences in our family that sounded warm until you tried living inside them. Guests began arriving before I could get the beans plugged in. Anna Lane brought the woman with the hair. Dad's old feed salesman brought bourbon in a gift bag meant for a bottle of wine. Neighbors shook his hand and asked what he planned to do with himself, and Dad kept answering, "Whatever Carol tells me," while ignoring every instruction she gave him. Travis worked the room. He carried plates for older guests, replenished drinks, and told the story of how Dad once chased an escaped bull through the bank parking lot. He told it well. Even Dad laughed, though he had heard it enough times to correct the order of parked cars. At 7, Melanie found me behind the serving table, scraping congealed cheese from the spoon. "You should eat," she said. "I'm sampling." "That's not sampling, that's evidence removal." She made me a plate and stood there until I took it. Across the shed, Travis had one hand on Dad's shoulder, while 2 neighboring cattlemen listened to him describe feed prices. Dad watched him with a look I had spent years pretending not to see. "He's good at this," Melanie said. "At eating? At making people feel like they're part of his story. He usually makes me feel like I'm cleaning up after it." Her mouth tightened, but she didn't defend him. Then Dad tapped his beer bottle with a fork. The room settled. He thanked everybody for coming. He thanked Mom for 43 years of keeping him alive. He joked about retirement lasting until Monday. Then he called Travis forward. I was holding the trash bag when he said it. "This is the one who'll keep the Mercer place going. He's the farmer of the family. Always has been." The laughter rolled through the shed. Dad pointed his bottle at me. "And Leah will keep him organized. Lord knows somebody has to." Travis smiled at me. Then he reached behind the drink cooler and pulled out the folded feed store calendar. "Actually," he said, "Dad gave me permission to share some news." He opened the calendar across the nearest table. On the blank back in thick black marker, he had drawn the north gate, my barn, and 30 small circles covering my pasture. "Come spring," he said, "we're expanding." For a second, I thought the circles were meant to be hay bales. Then Travis tapped one with his finger. 30 additional head, he said. Maybe 35 if the market softens before winter. We'll divide the north pasture into smaller sections and rotate them through. Better grass utilization, less pressure on Dad's side, and we can use Leah's barn for the spring calvers. Someone near the back said, "That's a sizable jump?" Travis nodded like he had been waiting for the question. "It is, but the land's there. We haven't been using it to capacity." I set the trash bag on the floor. "Travis." He looked over. "Yeah? What are those rectangles? Temporary paddocks. On my pasture." He gave a small laugh, inviting the room to treat my question as sisterly heckling. A few people accepted. "Well, unless you want them in your kitchen." "Did you ask me?" The laughter stopped with surprising speed. Dad lowered his beer bottle. Mom's face tightened in the particular way it did when she thought I had chosen honesty at an inconvenient volume. Travis looked at Dad, then back at me. "I thought Dad talked to you." "No, you didn't." "All right." His smile stayed in place, but only from habit. I assumed he had. Dad stepped closer to the table. "We've been talking about this for months. I can see that. It's a sound plan. On my land. Aunt Elaine became intensely interested in the deviled egg on her plate. The woman from her walking group lifted her plastic cup and stared through the tea as if leaves might spell out an escape route. Dad spread one hand. Your grass is going to waste half the year. No, it isn't. You're barely stocked. I'm stocked for what I want. Which is what, Leah? Looking at it? There it was. Not anger yet, just the bafflement of a man discovering that an appliance had an opinion. Travis folded the calendar halfway. We don't have to do this right now. You did it right now. I was announcing an idea. You said Dad gave you permission. Dad's jaw shifted. I gave him permission to expand the herd, then put them on your side. There isn't room on my side. That's the point. A silence opened between us. Dad seemed to hear his own words after everybody else did, but instead of backing away from them, he got louder. For God's sake, it's not like you're doing anything with that land we aren't already doing. The room went so quiet I heard grease pop inside the warming tray. Travis's eyes closed briefly. Mom moved first. She came around the serving table and took the folded calendar from him. That is enough farm talk, she said brightly. Dean, cut your cake. Nobody argued with her because cake was the nearest available shelter. Dad stood where he was for another moment. His face had gone red above the collar. Then Bud Haney slapped him on the back and asked whether the cake was chocolate, and the room began moving again with the desperate cooperation of people leaving the scene of an accident. Melanie came toward me, but I picked up the trash bag. Leah, she said, I need to change this. It's a bag. It's full. It wasn't. I carried it out anyway. The air outside had cooled. Moths battered themselves against the light over the shed door, and music started inside, one of Mom's old country songs about standing by a man who probably didn't deserve the structural support. I crossed the gravel lot and kept going until the machine shed was behind me. The north gate was a dark opening in the fence. Cows grazed on my side, broad shapes spread beneath a thin wash of moonlight. One lifted her head when I approached, chewing slowly. I rested my arms on the top rail. Boots scraped on gravel behind me. I knew they were Travis's because Dad dragged his left heel and Melanie took shorter steps. You disappeared, he said. I'm right here. He stopped beside me. For once, he did not start with a joke. I'm sorry about that. Which part? The whole announcement. What about the plan? He blew air through his nose. I'm sorry you heard about it that way. I turned my head. You want another try? That came out wrong. It came out very specific. He leaned against the gate, leaving a careful space between us. His good shirt glowed pale blue in the dark. Dad told me he'd clear it with you. You keep saying that like he's my supervisor. No. I know. Do you? Of course I know it's your property. But there's no but. Then your circles wandered. He looked out at the cows. We've used this pasture for years. Yes, you've never acted like it bothered you. That's not permission for anything you can draw with a marker. I understand that. Do you? His mouth tightened. Would you quit asking me that? Then say something I believe. He pushed away from the gate and paced 2 steps before coming back. Movement had always helped Travis when stillness threatened to become thought. This isn't some scheme to take your place, he said. Feed costs are up. Dad's herd isn't bringing in what it used to. More cattle means we spread equipment costs, make better use of the acreage, and have something solid in 5 years. Yes, we. Whose name is on the plan? Nobody's name is on it. It's the back of a calendar. You announced yourself as the future of the farm while assigning me more work. I didn't call myself that. You stood there. What was I supposed to do? Shove Dad away? You could have corrected him. Travis laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Right. In front of 60 people during his retirement toast, I should have said, actually, Dad, Leah is the real farmer. Would that have fixed it? No. Then what did you want? The answer rose so fast it hurt, and I swallowed it because I didn't trust what shape it would take. I wanted you to ask me before you decided what would happen in my barn. I should have asked. Yes, I'm asking now. No, you're not. You're trying to get a yes after telling everybody it's done. He looked toward the shed. Can we talk tomorrow, after everybody calms down? You mean after I calm down? I mean everybody. Dad doesn't think there's anything to calm down from. Dad says stupid things when he feels challenged. He said it before I challenged him. That landed. Travis rubbed the back of his neck. Inside the shed, people applauded. Dad had probably finished cutting the cake without losing a finger. Travis stared across my pasture. I really thought this could be good for all of us. You thought it would be good for the farm. What's the difference? I looked at him. His expression changed, just slightly. He heard it. Before he could answer, Mom called his name from the shed. Not mine. She knew better than to try mine yet. Travis sighed. We're not finished. I know. He headed back, then stopped. 417, okay. She will be. The calf? Him too. I can take the late check. I've got it. He hesitated as if he understood that those 3 words were not reassurance anymore. All right, he said. The party lasted another hour. I stayed outside until Aunt Elaine found me and handed me an empty punch bowl, like I had been hiding to avoid my natural calling. By the time the last truck left, the machine shed smelled of coffee, warm mayonnaise, and trampled gravel. Dad stacked chairs while Mom ordered him not to stack chairs. We'll clean tomorrow, she said. If we leave food out, we'll have mice voting in here by morning. Dean, it is after 10. Mice don't wear watches. I carried serving trays toward the farmhouse. Travis was at his truck loading Melanie's dishes. Neither of us spoke. Mom followed me into the kitchen and shut the door with her hip. You embarrassed your father. I put a tray beside the sink. That's one interpretation. He was trying to honor Travis. He did. It was his night. That's why I didn't bring up the tractor service or the heifer. She unwrapped a platter, stared at 3 remaining slices of ham, and wrapped it again. Your brother should have talked to you first, she said. The concession was so unexpected I waited for the rest. But you could have handled it privately. There it was. He announced it publicly. That doesn't mean you had to answer publicly. What was I supposed to do? Smile while he divided my pasture into little squares? You could have said you'd discuss the details later. The details were my land, my barn, my grass, and my time. Nobody is trying to take anything from you. They already took the answer. Mom leaned both hands on the counter. She looked tired now, her lipstick worn away except at the edges. Leah, your father is scared. That slowed me. Of what? Of stopping. Of not knowing who he is if Travis runs the farm. Of getting old, though he'd rather chew glass than say it. I looked through the window. Dad crossed the yard carrying 4 chairs at once, while Travis followed with none because he was trying to explain something. So Dad gives Travis a farm and me a job? He trusts you? No, he spends me. Mom flinched. I wished she hadn't. Anger was easier when it didn't leave marks. That is a cruel way to put it, she said. It's late. That doesn't make it true. No, the last 12 years make it true. Her eyes hardened. You offered that pasture. During a drought. You said family didn't need to ask. That was 8 years ago, Mom, and now you're keeping score. I picked up the empty tray. No, I think I'm finally reading it. I left before she could answer. At home, I changed into an old sweatshirt and checked 417. The calf was nursing. His mother watched me with the same distrust she had shown before I saved them both. You'll fit in, I told him. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Travis's black circles across the back of that calendar. At 1:30, I made coffee. At 2, I found the original chain in my barn. At 2:15, I started the side-by-side. The Mercer cows on my pasture knew the sound of a feed bucket. They followed me down the hill in a loose, sleepy line, calves bumping beside them. I opened the sorting lane, shook grain into the bunk on Dad's side, and let the first group pass through the north gate. By 3:30, I had moved all but 7. Headlights appeared near the farmhouse. A truck rolled down the lane and stopped outside the fence. Melanie climbed out wearing pajama pants under a canvas coat. "Travis is asleep," she said. "Your mother called me." "Of course she did. She thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. I'm moving cattle. I can see that." She looked at the cows crowded along the lane. "Do you want help?" This time, I said yes. She worked the gate while I brought the last 7 down. Neither of us talked much. The final cow crossed at 4:12, pausing in the opening long enough to look back at my pasture. I swung the north gate shut. Melanie watched me thread the chain through the bars. "Are you sure?" she asked. "No." I snapped the lock closed anyway. My phone rang at 7:03. Dad didn't say good morning. What in the hell is on the north gate? A lock. I can see it's a lock. Then why'd you ask? There was a silence. "When are you taking it off?" he said. I looked out my kitchen window at the empty pasture. "I'm not." Dad breathed into the phone hard enough to create weather. "You moved my cows. They're on your property. You moved them in the dark. They followed a bucket. Nobody was harmed. You had Melanie out there at 4 in the morning? I didn't have her anywhere." She came over. "Because your mother was worried sick. Mom was awake enough to call the correct person, apparently. That's supposed to be funny?" "No." I poured coffee and missed the mug. A brown stripe ran down the cabinet. Dad's voice dropped. Quiet was more dangerous with him than shouting. "You're mad about what I said. I'm mad about what you did." "Which was what?" "Talk about a plan? Approve one that uses my property. You've let us use that pasture since you bought it." "I did. So this is because I praised your brother." I wiped the coffee with my sleeve. "If that's what you need to tell yourself, what I need is for you to take that damned lock off. No, you're going to make Travis haul water because your feelings got hurt? The cattle have water on your side. 1 trough for that whole bunch. The automatic waterer by the south lot handles 30. The concrete trough handles the rest if somebody replaces the float valve." A pause. "What's wrong with the float valve?" "It sticks." "Since when?" "April." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did. Twice." He muttered something that sounded like he was speaking to the room rather than to me. I heard a cupboard shut. "I'll come over," he said. "I'm leaving for work." "Then wait." "No." "Leah, I have inventory at 8. You have a float valve to replace." I hung up before he could answer, which felt dramatic for almost 3 seconds. Then the phone rang again. "Mom!" I turned it face down. By 6:45, I had found every piece of Mercer property inside my barn. That took longer than expected because ownership on a farm tended to become philosophical. Dad's red mineral feeder was easy. So were Travis's portable panels and the calf puller he had left hooked over a nail 2 winters earlier. The socket set was mine, although 3 sockets had migrated into Travis's truck, often enough to qualify for dual citizenship. I dragged everything to the gravel apron and arranged it in a line. Mineral feeder, panels, calf puller, 2 pitchforks, a dented toolbox, Travis's post driver, Dad's fencing stretcher, 3 empty feed tubs and 1 full tub I had paid for. I kept the full one. Mom called twice more while I showered. Travis sent a text. "Can we not go nuclear before breakfast?" I typed back. "Pick up your equipment by 6. Use the road entrance." 3 dots appeared, vanished, and returned. Dad says he's coming over. Tell him use the road entrance too. I put the phone in my bag. Mercer Farm and Home sat 12 miles outside town between a tire shop and a Baptist church that had changed its message board from "Pray for rain" to "Thank you, Lord" 3 days after the rain finally came. My grandfather's cousin had started the store, but no Mercer had owned it for years. The name remained because changing a sign cost money, and because half the county assumed we were all connected anyway. I managed the feed and livestock side. That meant I knew which rancher would buy the cheapest mineral and complain about conception rates, which horse owner needed reassurance more than wormer, and which husbands had been told they were not allowed to bring home chicks. My assistant manager, Rhonda Bell, was unloading boxes of work gloves when I came in. She glanced at the clock. "You're late." "It's 7:53. You're spiritually late." Rhonda was 56, had silver hair cut close around her ears, and wore red lipstick to unload freight. She'd worked at the store longer than anybody and treated my job title as an administrative error we were both too polite to correct. She looked at my face. "You sick?" "No." "Family?" "Yes." "Dean?" "All of them." She nodded. "That's usually how family comes. We opened at 8. At 8:12, Amos Reed needed a gate hinge. At 8:17, Walt Penner returned a salt block because, according to him, his cows did not like it. At 8:29, Dad walked through the automatic doors. He had changed out of his party clothes but not slept. His gray hair stood up behind his ears and his jaw was rough with stubble. He carried the cut-off float valve in one hand. Rhonda looked from him to me. "I'm going to count gloves somewhere else," she said. Dad set the valve on the counter. "You knew this was bad." "I knew it stuck. That rubber's cracked through." "Yes, you could have picked one up any day. We stock them in plumbing, aisle 4. His eyes narrowed. "You always handled the waterers, and now I don't." A customer came through the doors, saw Dad's posture, and turned sharply toward birdseed. Dad lowered his voice. "You made your point. I haven't made a point. I changed an arrangement, same thing. No, a point ends when somebody understands it." He planted both hands on the counter. The old valve left a wet ring on the laminate. "Your mother hasn't stopped crying." "Mom cries when restaurants change their menus. That's a cheap shot." "It is. I'm tired. So come home tonight. We'll all sit down." "I have a home." "You know what I mean." I did. Home meant the white farmhouse where Dad and Mom lived. My house was Leah's place, the Jessup place, or up north. Something you had to modify so nobody mistook it for the center. Dad picked up the valve and turned it in his hand. I shouldn't have said what I said in front of people. It was not an apology, but it was closer than I expected before 9 in the morning. "Which thing?" "That you weren't doing anything with the ground. You meant it. I was aggravated. You were specific. I know you work hard. At the store? At everything." He said it impatiently, as if my need to hear it had become another chore I had assigned him. I waited. Dad looked toward aisle 4. "Travis is good with cattle. I know. He has instincts. He also has me. That's what families are for." "No, that's what I've been for." He exhaled and stepped away from the counter. "How long are you keeping the gate locked?" "I don't know. We need access to that barn." "No, you want access to it. Same difference this time of year. It isn't calving season yet. We've got 417 and her calf in the lot, your lot. If the weather turns, that shed on my side leaks. Fix it." That hit him harder than I expected. Not because the shed couldn't be fixed. Because I had always been the person who noticed the leak, bought the sealant, and climbed the ladder before rain. Dad's gaze settled on my name badge. "You think because you run this place, you know how to run a farm." There were half a dozen answers available. All of them would have made me feel good for less than a minute. "Float valves are aisle 4, I said. He stared at me, then walked away. Rhonda returned when he reached plumbing. "I counted all the gloves," she said. "How many?" "Plenty." Dad bought 2 valves, though he needed one. At the register, he used his farm account. The account was in his name, but the employee discount attached to it was mine. I removed the discount. The total changed by $11.40. He noticed. Neither of us said anything. At 10:30, Mom arrived with a chicken casserole in an insulated carrier. "Is this an intervention or lunch?" I asked. "You didn't eat enough last night." I ate. 3 bites of ham and Melanie's potato salad. That's unsettlingly accurate. "I'm your mother." She put the carrier in the break room refrigerator and began straightening a display of fly spray that did not need her help. "Your father came home acting like someone shot his dog. He bought an extra valve. He does that when he's upset. Good thing I didn't insult him at the truck dealership." Mom gave me a look, then moved 1 bottle half an inch. He apologized. He visited. He said he admitted he shouldn't have embarrassed you. He said he shouldn't have said it in front of people. Isn't that the same thing? No. She rubbed her thumb over a price label. Your father doesn't always use the right words. He uses the ones he has. You know what he means. That sentence had done more unpaid labor in our family than I had. A delivery truck hissed to a stop outside. Rhonda waved at me through the stockroom window, saw Mom, and took the clipboard herself. Mom glanced toward the window. "You'll come to supper?" "No. We need to talk. We are talking. As a family." "What happens if I say no there?" Her expression pinched. "This isn't about saying no. It's entirely about saying no. Then say it without turning your back on everybody. I'm standing right here, behind a counter, at work, where nobody can speak freely," Dad managed. She folded her arms. "Travis feels terrible. He should. He thought Dean had asked you. He thought Dad's permission mattered more than mine. You know your brother. He gets excited. He sees the whole picture and misses details. My consent is not a detail." Mom's eyes moved toward the front of the store, where a customer was comparing bags of chicken feed. "Lower your voice," I'm whispering. "You have an intense whisper." I nearly laughed. That was the trouble with Mom. Even when I wanted to stay angry, she could find some ridiculous truth and set it between us like a peace offering. Her mouth softened when she saw it. Then she said, "Give Travis a little time to adjust." The laugh disappeared. "I've been adjusting for 12 years. She lifted her purse from the counter. "The casserole dish is mine. I know. Bring it Sunday. I'm not coming Sunday." She went still. Sunday supper at the farmhouse was not an invitation. It was weather. "Don't do that," she said. "Do what? Make me pay for what your father said. I'm not. I'm just not coming. Because of him. Because I need one day when nobody hands me a problem before dessert." She left without the casserole. At 5:40, Travis's truck came up my road towing Dad's stock trailer. Melanie followed in her SUV. I stood beside the equipment while Travis climbed out and surveyed the line. "You put my pitchforks out." "Yes, one of those is yours. They're both yours." He picked up the one with the blue tape around the handle. "This is definitely yours." I looked at it. "Fine." He handed it over without smiling. For the next 20 minutes, we loaded equipment in silence. The mineral feeder was too wide for the trailer door, so Travis had to remove one side rail. He scraped his knuckles, swore, and then apologized to Melanie, though she had not complained. When the last panel was strapped down, he looked toward the north gate. "You could have let us bring the trailer through there. The road works. It adds 3 miles. Yes, you're serious about all of it." "I am." He nodded slowly. Dad's cows crowded the fence on the far side, calling toward the grass they had crossed every day for years. Travis followed my eyes. "What exactly stops now?" he asked. "Grazing. My barn, my equipment, my feed account, me doing your records, ordering your supplies, checking water, arranging service, and coming over because somebody forgot something." His face changed at the length of it. "You made a list?" "I lived the list." Melanie looked down. Travis hooked his thumbs in his pockets. "And emergencies? Call me. I'll decide. We're family. That's why you have my number." He looked like he wanted to argue, but Melanie touched his arm. They left with the trailer rattling behind them. That night, the pasture outside my window was quiet. I had wanted quiet for years. I hadn't known it would sound so much like loss. At 10:47, a cow bawled from Dad's side of the fence. Another answered. Then 3 more joined in until the herd sounded like a committee objecting to the minutes. I stood at the kitchen sink with the water running over a plate I had already washed. The cows weren't hungry. They had hay. They had water. They were calling because cattle believed an open gate was part of the natural order, and somebody had violated nature. "I know," I said to the dark window. "They kept calling." I shut off the water and went to bed with the television on. At 5 the next morning, my body woke before the alarm. I put on work clothes, filled the coffee maker, and reached for the ring of keys that included Dad's equipment shed. My hand stopped above the bowl. I no longer needed that key. I took it off the ring and left it on the counter. Outside, mist lay low over the north pasture. My 11 cows were gathered in the east paddock beyond the barn, waiting for me at their feeder. They were a small herd because I liked knowing each animal without consulting a tag. Dad called them my hobby cows, though their calves paid their own expenses, and mine had never needed his grass. I checked their water, counted them twice out of habit, and drove the side-by-side along my fence. On Dad's side, Travis was trying to coax the Mercer herd away from the north gate with a bale on the tractor. The cows followed him 20 yards, realized he wasn't opening the gate, and came back. He saw me. I raised one hand. He did not. That hurt more than it should have. At work, Rhonda had placed Mom's casserole dish on my desk. She came by before opening, she said. I was here before opening. She waited until you went to receiving. Strategic. She also bought fly traps she doesn't need. Emotional shopping. Rhonda took a sip of coffee. Your people always this entertaining? Only during periods of peace. The casserole dish was clean, wrapped in a dish towel, and topped with a yellow sticky note. Sunday? 6 o'clock? Please. Mom had underlined please twice. I turned the note over. Nothing on the back. Rhonda leaned against the doorframe. You going? Do you have work for me Sunday at 6? I can invent some. I'd appreciate it. No. You offered. I offered employment fraud. Not cowardice. I'm not afraid of supper, then go. You ever sat through a Mercer supper? I've lived through 2 marriages. Pass the potatoes. I put the dish beneath my desk. A few minutes later, the service manager from Dalton Equipment called the store. Leah, this is Mark. I've got Dean's tractor down for a 200-hour service tomorrow, but nobody's confirmed. My fingers tightened around the phone. For 6 years, Mark had called me because Dad didn't answer unknown numbers, and Travis treated voicemail like an archaeological record. I would confirm the appointment, make sure the tractor was cleaned enough to work on, and remind Dad 3 times not to use it on service day. You need to call Travis, I said. I did. And? Mailbox is full. Call Dad. He sent me to voicemail. That's surprising. Your number isn't unknown. Mark laughed. You want me to keep the slot? I'm not handling their service anymore. Silence. All right, he said carefully. Everything okay? Everything's clear. That's not what I asked. It's what I've got. I gave him Travis's number again, even though he already had it. Then I sent Travis a text. Dalton Equipment needs confirmation for tractor service tomorrow. Call Mark by 10 or he'll release the slot. Travis replied 11 minutes later. Got it. At 10:12, Mark called back. Still nothing, he said. I looked at Travis's message. Release it. You sure? It isn't my tractor. Saying it felt petty and accurate at the same time. At lunch, I ate Mom's casserole cold from a paper cup while standing behind the receiving desk. It tasted like pepper, cream of chicken soup, and every Sunday I had ever attended. Dad didn't call all day. Travis called at 6:20 that evening. I missed Mark. So reschedule. He says they're booked for 3 weeks. That happens before harvest. You knew that? Yes. You couldn't have confirmed? No. There was a brief clatter on his end, then the sound of a truck door shutting. I said I had it. You didn't. So you let him release the slot to teach me a lesson. I told you exactly what would happen. I was fixing fence, and I was working. I'm working too, Leah. I know. His voice changed, the anger losing its edge. I'm trying to get a new water line run before the ground hardens. Dad wants the south lot split. The mineral feeder won't sit level where he put it. Every time I move the cows, they circle back to that gate, walk them farther south. That's not the point. It sounded like the point. He was quiet. Could you open the gate for 2 days? He asked. Just while I get the fence finished. No, I'm not asking to use the barn. Just grass. No, you've made your position clear. Then why are you asking? Because we're trying to adjust. So adjust. Jesus, Leah. You asked. I answered. I don't know who you are right now. I leaned back against the receiving desk. Yes, you do. You just don't like that I'm saying no. That's not fair. Probably not. He waited for me to soften it. I knew the space he left. I had filled it for years. This time I didn't. "I have to go," he said. "Okay." He hung up. I stayed at the store an extra hour reorganizing cattle supplements that were already organized. When I got home, the temporary fence on Dad's south lot was still lit by tractor headlights. Travis and Dad worked at opposite ends without speaking. I could tell from the posts that they had started the line crooked. I went inside. Mom's Sunday note remained on my desk at work until Saturday afternoon. I carried it home in my pocket, set it beside Dad's shed key, and spent an unreasonable amount of time looking at both. At 5:30 Sunday, I changed into a clean shirt. At 5:40, I changed back into work clothes. I drove to the barn and replaced a hinge on a stall door that had been functioning perfectly well without my attention. At 6:05, Mom called. I let it ring. At 6:17, she called again. At 6:28, Melanie sent a text. "Your mom put out the good dishes. Thought you should know the severity level." I smiled despite myself. "Tell her I joined the circus." Already suggested witness protection. At 7:10, a pair of headlights moved along my road. Mom's sedan pulled up beside the barn. She got out carrying a plate covered in foil. "You could answer your phone," she said. "I could. You made too much casserole. You gave me the whole thing. That was lunch casserole. This is supper. Different species, pot roast." She entered the barn without waiting to be invited and looked at the stall door. What was wrong with it? Nothing. Then why are you fixing it? It annoyed me. Mom set the plate on an overturned bucket. She wore navy slacks and the pearl earrings Dad had given her for their 30th anniversary. One earring sat lower than the other because the hole in her left ear had stretched. "Your father waited until 6:30 to carve the roast," she said. "I didn't ask him to. He thought you might come." "Did he call?" "You know he doesn't like phones. He called when he found the lock." "That's different." "It usually is." Mom studied my face. "You're enjoying this." The accusation surprised me enough that I laughed. "You think I'm enjoying pot roast delivery in a barn? You like being the one with control for once." I put down the wrench. "Maybe I do." She had expected denial. My answer left her without the next line. "Does that make the lock wrong?" I asked. "It makes me wonder what you want. I want them to stop using my property. No, what do you want from us? I want you to hear that sentence without digging underneath it for a softer one." She looked around the barn. Dad's equipment was gone, leaving pale rectangles in the dust and empty hooks along one wall. My machinery occupied less than half the space. The rest looked enormous. "You didn't have to put everything outside like garbage," she said. "It wasn't garbage. They picked it up. Your brother was humiliated. He was humiliated in front of Melanie and me. That still counts. So does what happened to me." "I know." She said it quietly. I waited, but no qualification followed. Mom sat on a bale of clean straw and smoothed her slacks over her knees. "When you were in college, your father used to drive past your apartment," she said. "What?" "He had deliveries near Columbia sometimes. He'd go down your street to see if your car was there. Why didn't he stop? He didn't want to bother you. He once called me 4 times during a final because he couldn't find the receipt for a cattle vaccine. He worries sideways. That doesn't make it useful." "No." She rubbed her thumb across her wedding ring. "It doesn't." I sat on the bale across from her. For a minute, we listened to my cows pulling hay from the feeder outside. "You could come for coffee," she said. "Not supper. No meeting, no invoices, just coffee." "What invoices?" She looked up too quickly. "Nothing. Mom, your father has some bills he wanted you to look at." "Of course he does. He's never understood the feed statements. He's been buying feed for 40 years. He understands feed. He doesn't understand statements. And Travis, he said he'd look. But..." She adjusted the foil over the pot roast, though it was already secure. "He hasn't." There it was, tucked beneath coffee like medicine in a spoonful of applesauce. "I'm not doing the books." I didn't ask. "You drove them to my barn. I brought you supper. With a side of accounts payable." She stood. "I should have left it alone." "Yes. You don't have to sound pleased about that." "I'm not pleased. You sound pleased all the time now. I sound clear. You're not used to it. Mom picked up her purse, leaving the pot roast. At the barn door, she stopped. The family can't change everything in 1 week, Leah. I didn't ask you to. You changed everything in 1 night. No. I stopped holding it in place. She walked to her car without answering. The next morning, the tractor's hydraulic hose burst while Travis was feeding. He called at 6:14. "Tell me where Dad keeps the spare. I don't know if he has one. You ordered 2 last time. I ordered 1 last time. Dalton had to make the other. The loader's down with a bale in the air. Lower it. I can't. We lost pressure. Shut the tractor off and block the loader before you go near it." "I know that." "Then call Mark. It's 6 in the morning. He has an emergency number. You have his personal number, so do you. I sent it last winter. Can you just call him?" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. Travis went silent. Behind him, I could hear cows bawling. "We need to feed," he said. "You have the flatbed. Put square bales on it and cut the strings by hand. That'll take all morning." "Yes, Dad's back is killing him." "Then you do it. And you're okay with that?" I looked out at the pale strip of sunrise above the north gate. "No," I said. "I'm not okay with any of it. Could have fooled me." He hung up. I called Mark anyway. When he answered, I said, "This isn't me arranging service." "Sure sounds like you arranging service. The loader is stuck up. I'm giving you a safety warning." He sighed. "I'll call Travis." "Thank you." I stood in my kitchen holding the phone. 10 minutes later, headlights appeared on Dad's side. Travis loaded square bales onto the flatbed 1 at a time. I put on my coat and went to feed my own cows. The square bales were stacked in the back of Travis's flatbed, 12 to a layer and 3 layers high. He had loaded them without much thought, which meant the top row leaned toward the driver's side like it wanted a better view. I watched from my feeder as he backed toward the south lot. 1 bale slid off and burst open on the ground. Travis got out, stared at it, and looked across the fence at me. I turned back to my cows. That was harder than moving Dad's whole herd had been. Around 10, Rhonda called me to the front register. Travis stood there with grease on his coat and 2 bleeding cracks across his knuckles. On the counter lay a hydraulic hose, a bucket of fluid, and 4 bags of high-mag mineral. "I told him the hose won't fit," Rhonda said. "It'll fit," Travis said. "It has the wrong end." The other one looked too small. Rhonda rested her elbows on the counter. "Do you want the sister answer or the store answer?" He looked at me. "Store." "The hose won't fit," I said. Rhonda made a satisfied sound and walked away. Travis stared at the hose as if it had betrayed him personally. "Mark can't get out until this afternoon. He said to bring the old one in, but I left it on the tractor. You need the old fittings matched. I know that now." He flexed his right hand and winced. "You should clean those cuts. They're fine." "The hydraulic fluid isn't." I said they're fine. I rang up the mineral. The register displayed the regular price. His eyes moved to the total. "You took the discount off everything?" "Yes, I thought that was just Dad being dramatic about a float valve. The discount is mine. I buy a lot of feed here. You do, because you work here." "No, you buy it here because we carry what you use and load it for you." He glanced toward the warehouse doors. "You're not loading anymore either? My employees will load store purchases. That's their job. You know what I mean?" I did. He slid his card into the reader. The transaction declined. Travis frowned, tried again, and got the same message. He looked over his shoulder as if strangers might have gathered to watch. There was only Amos Reed by the work gloves and Rhonda pretending to dust a shelf. "Run it on the farm account," he said. "The mineral?" "All of it." "Dad's account doesn't have charging privileges." "What? It's pay at purchase." "Since when?" "Always." "No, we charge stuff. You put it on my employee account. Then I settle it on payday." He looked at the 4 bags. "How much is on there now?" "Nothing. I paid it off and closed it for family use." His face went blank. "You paid it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because the statement was mine." "No, I mean, why didn't you tell me there was a balance?" "I did. In May. I paid you in May. You paid for the fencing supplies. The mineral came later. How much? $312. He stared at me like I had produced the number from Malice. I'll pay you back. Okay. You could have reminded me. I could have. That's what I'm talking about, Leah. You do something, don't say anything, and then 6 months later, it becomes evidence. I'm not presenting evidence. You asked. You know what I mean? Yes, I usually do. He pressed both palms against the counter and dropped his head. For a moment, he looked less like Dad than he ever had. The confidence went out of his shoulders. He was just my brother, tired and embarrassed, with cracked hands and a tractor he didn't know how to fix. I wanted to tell him not to worry about the money. That was how it happened, not through orders, through one tired look and my need to relieve it. The cashier can hold this while you get the old hose, I said. He lifted his head. I'll transfer the money. You don't have to do it this minute. I do. He stood in the feed aisle tapping at his phone until the transfer came through. Then he paid for the mineral, left the fluid and wrong hose on the counter, and walked out. Rhonda appeared beside me. I thought you were dusting. I completed the dust. Impressive. She watched Travis's truck leave. You all right? I'm excellent. You have an intense excellent. I looked at her. She smiled. Thought that sounded familiar. Melanie came to my house that evening carrying Mom's insulated casserole carrier. Apparently, this is our family's traveling peace vessel, she said. I already returned the dish. This is a different dish. Are they breeding? She opened the carrier. Inside was a glass pan of apple crisp, still warm. Carol says she made too much. Carol has not accidentally made too much food since 1994. I don't think this one's a trap. You don't sound sure. I didn't search the apples. We sat at my kitchen table. Melanie accepted coffee but declined the apple crisp, which supported my trap theory. She wrapped both hands around her mug. Travis told me about the store. I didn't ask him for the money. I know. He asked what happened. I know that too. She turned the mug slowly. He's angry because he feels stupid. Those feelings travel together in this family. He honestly didn't know you'd been carrying balances. He honestly didn't ask. I'm not defending him. You keep saying that before you defend him. She gave me a level look. I'm explaining him. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Explanation is what you use to decide whether you can live with a person. Defense is what you use so nobody else gets to decide. I sat back. Melanie drank her coffee. Okay, I said. That was annoyingly good. I've been married to your brother for 14 years. I have a graduate degree in circular conversations. Despite myself, I laughed. She smiled, but it didn't last. He fell asleep sitting on the edge of the bathtub last night. That seems inefficient. He's running himself ragged. He could sell some cattle. He knows. Does Dad? Dad thinks selling anything before he's ready is surrender. Dad thinks changing toothpaste is surrender. Melanie looked toward my dark window. The south lot is getting chewed up. I know. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. I know. I'm not asking you to open the gate. The fact that she needed to say it made my chest tighten. What are you asking? Nothing. That's why I came instead of Travis. I waited. She set down her mug. I understand why you did it. I do. But I live with what happens next, and sometimes I'm going to hate that part without thinking you were wrong. That's fair. I don't need permission. No, you don't. Good. We ate apple crisp from the same pan. It wasn't a trap. Or if it was, it had excellent cinnamon. Friday brought rain that lasted through the night. By Saturday morning, Dad's south lot looked like chocolate pudding with cows in it. I drove past the north gate slowly. Travis had laid gravel around the water trough and moved the hay ring to higher ground. The temporary fence line was still crooked, but he had reinforced every third post. Dad stood beside the tractor with the hood raised. The hydraulic hose had been replaced, though a dark stain spread beneath the loader. He saw me and lifted his chin. I lifted mine. Neither of us waved. Mom called before I reached the store. Coffee tomorrow, she said. 10 o'clock. I promise no supper and no invoices. No invoices. Is Dad going to be there? He lives here. He also owns trucks. He will be here. I agreed before I could turn it into a debate. Sunday morning, Mom had the good coffee cups out. Dad sat at the kitchen table in his undershirt reading an equipment catalog. A yellow legal pad lay near his elbow. I looked at Mom. "It's not invoices," she said. Dad folded the catalog. "It's feed usage. I'm leaving. Sit down." "No, we're not asking you to do anything. Then why is there a calculator beside my cup?" Mom picked it up and moved it to the counter. Dad shook his head. "This is ridiculous. I agree. We're trying to figure out how much hay we need if the herd stays off your ground. You have bale counts. Travis has bale counts. Then ask Travis. He's not here. Call him." Dad pushed the legal pad away. "I'm asking my daughter to sit at a table and have coffee, with numbers placed at her chair. Those numbers were already there." "Dad, what? You had 3 other chairs." He looked at the table as if this had not occurred to him. "Mom set a mug in front of me. I made cinnamon rolls. You said coffee. It's not a binding contract. I stayed standing." Dad rubbed both hands over his face. "Fine. Forget the feed. How long?" "How long what?" "You know what? The gate?" "Yes, the gate. It stays shut. Forever?" "I don't know. You can't even tell us what fixes this. I'm not a broken tractor. That isn't what I said. You keep asking for a repair timeline like I'm making you wait for a part." Dad stood. His chair scraped the floor. "I have apologized." "No, you haven't. I said I shouldn't have embarrassed you. You said you shouldn't have said it in front of people. What is the difference? If you'd said it alone, would it have been true?" His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Mom stared into the cinnamon rolls. I picked up my coat. Dad followed me through the mudroom. "Leah, wait." I turned at the back steps. His anger had drained away, leaving something older and more tired. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. I almost told him. The words crowded behind my teeth. That he saw me, that the farm had leaned on me, that offering help was not the same as owing it, that Travis being his son had not made me less his daughter. But if I gave Dad the lines, he would repeat them and call the work finished. "I want you to know," I said. His face hardened again. "That's convenient." No, convenient was me doing everything. I left. When I reached home, Dad's truck was already parked at the north gate. He stood in the rain with a pair of bolt cutters hanging from one hand. I stopped on my side of the fence. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. "You planning to use those?" I asked. Dad looked down at the cutters as if surprised to find them there. "It's my chain. It's my lock. It's my gate. The gate sits on the boundary. You're welcome to take your half." His jaw flexed. Behind him, the Mercer cows pushed along the muddy fence, staring at the green pasture beyond me. "I could cut it," he said. "Yes." "You gonna call somebody?" "No." That unsettled him more than a threat would have. "What would you do?" "Put on another lock." Rain ran from the brim of his cap. Dad stared at the chain for a long time. Then he set the bolt cutters in the bed of his truck. He didn't apologize. He didn't look at me when he left. But the lock remained whole. An hour later, I saw Travis in the south lot pulling fence in the rain. He slipped once, went down on one knee, got up, and kept working. I made a thermos of coffee. I carried it as far as my porch. Then I stood there until it went cold. The next morning, I poured the cold coffee down the sink. It had gone bitter in the thermos. I told myself that was why I didn't reheat it. The rain cleared, but the temperature dropped hard enough to silver the fences with frost. Dad's cows stood along the north gate at sunrise, steam rising from their backs. Travis had finished the temporary fence. It was still crooked, though less crooked than when he started. He had also built up the muddy stretch around the trough with another load of gravel. I noticed these things without wanting to. At the store, Rhonda was opening a pallet of heated water buckets. "You hear about Dean's tractor?" she asked. I stopped halfway through, taking off my coat. "No." Transmission warning came on. Travis had it hauled to Dalton. "When?" "Last night." "How do you know?" My cousin drives the rollback. Rhonda had a cousin in every business within 50 miles, which made her more reliable than local radio and twice as fast. Mark say what's wrong? Wouldn't tell my cousin. That seems unethical. Mark has standards. My cousin finds them insulting. I walked to my office, sat down, and stared at the service calendar without seeing it. Dad's tractor had been running hot in August. The hydraulic hose was separate, but the warning light wasn't new. I had written the service hours on a piece of masking tape and stuck it inside the cab. Travis had missed the appointment. Mark had released the slot. None of that was mine to fix. At 8:15, Dad called. "Morning," I said. "You heard. Just now." "Dalton says they can't tear into it until next week. That's faster than I expected. We need your tractor." "No." He didn't even pause. "Just for feeding." "No. Mine may need a new pump." "I'm sorry." "I don't need sorry. I need a loader. Call the rental place in Fulton." Travis already did. $900 a week. Then I guess it's $900 a week. "You have a tractor sitting 30 yards from the gate." "My tractor is feeding my cows. 11 cows." "Yes. You could feed those with a wheelbarrow." "So could you." His breath caught. I closed my eyes. That was unnecessary. It was also clear. You want me to pay $900 because your brother missed a phone call? No. I want you to make your own decision about your own equipment problem. We made decisions for 40 years before you started managing everything. Then this should feel familiar. Dad went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was flat. "Your mother was right." "About what?" "You're enjoying this." He hung up. I sat with the phone against my ear until the dial tone began. Rhonda appeared in the doorway holding 2 water buckets. "Red or green?" "What?" "For the end display. Red. You hate red displays. I'm growing." She set both buckets on the floor. Whatever Dean said, he said it because he wanted something. That doesn't make it hurt less. No. Makes it easier to shelve. Is everybody giving wisdom today? I can switch to gossip. Please. Bud Haney told Amos Reed that your Aunt Elaine's walking group friend isn't in a walking group. It's line dancing. I looked at her. Thank you. Anytime. At noon, the rental company delivered a compact loader to Dad's place. It was smaller than his tractor with a narrow cab and bright orange paint. Dad circled it twice before Travis showed him how to release the parking brake. I watched from the store's security camera in my imagination, which was unfair to all of us. When I got home, the loader was moving hay across the south lot. Travis operated it slowly. Dad stood nearby, signaling with both arms even when no signal was needed. I fed my cows with my tractor. It took 12 minutes. Afterward, I greased the loader arms, checked the fluid, and cleaned the cab glass. The work felt almost indecently easy when no one was calling my name from across the fence. Travis arrived after dark. He parked by my barn but stayed in the truck until I opened the side door. "You need something?" I asked. "Dad called you about the tractor." It wasn't a question. "Yes." He shouldn't have. I waited. Travis climbed out. His coat was dusty with hay and one knuckle had a strip of white bandage around it. I told him not to ask, he said. That must have gone well. He said you were making us rent something to prove a point. I recommended the rental because he called. I know. You do? I was standing there. That explained the pause before Dad hung up. Travis leaned against the truck. Don't lend it to him. I wasn't planning to. I mean, if he comes over. Don't. Are you warning me or giving me permission? He looked annoyed, then caught himself. Warning. Okay. He rubbed the bandage with his thumb. Mark thinks the pump's full of metal. That's bad. Apparently those warnings in August weren't a loose sensor. No. You knew? I knew it needed service. You could have told me that. I wrote it on tape inside the cab. I texted you about the appointment. I mean, you could have said it was serious. I didn't know how serious. That's why it needed service. He looked past me into the barn. Empty wall hooks cast long shadows beneath the overhead lights. Dad says this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't canceled. I didn't cancel. You didn't confirm. I know. The words were tired, not defensive. He reached into the truck and lifted out a blue 3-ring binder. The cover was dusty and bowed from moisture. I recognized it before he held it up. Found this under the desk at Mom and Dad's, the farm breeding records. I had stopped entering information the morning after the supper, but 12 years of calving dates, treatments, weaning weights, and notes were inside. My handwriting filled most of it. Travis's handwriting appeared on 3 pages, and one of those entries said, "Red calf, maybe 62? It belongs to the farm," I said. "I can't read half your codes. They aren't codes." He opened the binder. "What does CCL mean? Crossed center line, bad udder, and RFO, right foot only. Needed assistance." He flipped pages. "You wrote RFO on 6 cows, over 12 years. Dad wants to keep 236. She's had 2 assisted births and came up open once. She looks good." "She does." Travis closed the binder. "We have to sell some." I said nothing. 14, maybe 18. The hay numbers don't work otherwise. "What does Dad say? That we're not selling good cows because you're mad? He thinks the cows are hostages? He thinks you'll open the gate if he waits. That sounds expensive." I told him that. "And?" He said I haven't been running cattle long enough to understand a bad year. I almost laughed. "How's being the farmer of the family?" Travis's face hardened. I regretted it before he answered. "Pretty shitty, Leah." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. I'm sorry I said it that way." He put the binder on the hood of his truck. "I didn't ask him to say that. You also didn't hate it." "No." He looked directly at me. "I didn't." The honesty left less room for anger than an excuse would have. "He's never said anything like that about me," Travis continued. "Not in front of people. I liked it. Then you asked about the pasture, and I knew I'd screwed up. But everybody was looking, and I didn't want to hand it back." "Hand what back?" "The moment." His mouth twisted. "It sounds pathetic when I say it. It sounds human. That's generous. I'm experimenting." He looked down at the binder. "Will you show me how to read the rest?" Every reflex I had told me to take it from him, sit down and mark the call list myself. It would be faster. It would be safer. It would also place me directly back inside the arrangement I had locked out. "I'll explain my old notes," I said. "I won't choose your cows." He nodded. "And we do it here," I added. "Not at Mom's table." "Fine. Tomorrow at 7. I'll be feeding." "Then 8. "Okay." He picked up the binder. At the truck door, he stopped. "For what it's worth, I didn't know Dad took bolt cutters over here." "You do now," Melanie told me. "Of course she did. He won't do it again. You can't promise that." "No." Travis looked toward the north gate. "But if he does, he'll have to get past me first." He drove away before I could decide what to say. Mom called 20 minutes later. "Your father and Travis had a terrible fight. I heard there was disagreement. Travis accused him of treating you like hired help." That surprised me. "What did Dad say? That hired help gets paid?" I stared at the floor. Mom sighed. "He didn't mean it the way it sounded. He has an incredible gift. He's angry. So is Travis." "Yes? And you called me. I didn't know who else to call. You want me to fix their fight?" "No. What do you want?" She was quiet long enough that I sat on a hay bale. "When you stopped helping," she said, "everything got louder." The barn light hummed above me. "What does that mean? Your father complains to me because you don't answer. Travis calls me because Dean won't listen. Melanie calls because Travis comes home angry. Everybody used to call you." "Yes." I didn't realize how much quieter that made my life. Mom rarely walked all the way to an uncomfortable truth. Usually she waved at it from the road. "I'm sorry it landed on you," I said. "That sounds like what I say to you." "Maybe. I don't like hearing it." Neither did I. She gave a small, tired laugh. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. "Don't carry messages. They'll keep trying. Say no. You make that sound easy. No. I make it sound short." We sat in silence over the phone. Then Mom said, "I put the feed statements in your father's chair." I smiled. "How did that go?" He asked why they were there. "What did you say?" I said there were 3 other chairs. I laughed so hard one of my cows lifted her head outside. The next morning, a paper cup sat on the fence post beside the north gate. Leah was written on it in black marker. A folded napkin rested underneath. No favor. Seriously. I looked toward Dad's place. Travis was unloading hay from the rented loader. He didn't look up. The coffee was still hot. I drank it on my side of the locked gate. I kept the napkin in my coat pocket. That annoyed me enough that I nearly threw it away twice. At 8 that evening, Travis arrived with the blue binder, 2 pencils, and a legal pad. "You bring a calculator?" I asked. "My phone has one. Your phone also has voicemail. I knew that was coming." He sat at the workbench in my barn. I took the stool beside him, leaving the binder in front of his hands. He opened to the oldest section. "CCL," he said. "Crossed center line. Bad udder. Usually. RFO. Right foot only. Assisted birth." He wrote each abbreviation on the legal pad. His handwriting was larger than mine and leaned backward, as if the letters were resisting forward motion. "What's SA? Slow attitude. What does that mean?" "She's not aggressive, but she thinks about it." He turned the binder toward me. Cow 188 had SA beside 3 separate calving entries. "Why keep her?" "Good calves." "Good mother once she decides you're not stealing them. Dad likes her." "I know." He went through 10 pages before he started seeing the pattern. "You were at all these births?" "No. Your handwriting's on every page. Dad told me what happened on some. But all the treatment notes are yours. I kept the medicine log. And the breeding dates." "Yes?" "Weaning weights?" "Mostly." He flipped farther. The corners of several pages were wrinkled from being carried in my coat pocket during rain. A coffee stain spread across the year Dad had pneumonia and stayed out of the barn for 6 weeks. Travis touched one line with the end of his pencil. "Why did 236 get penicillin 3 days after calving?" "Fever." "She retained part of the placenta." "I don't remember that. You were in Colorado for 4 days." "She calved the second morning." "Why didn't anybody tell me?" "You called to say the trout were biting." He looked at me. "That's not a joke, is it?" "No." He sat back. "I thought Dad handled that year. He did what he could. Mom was driving him to appointments. I covered mornings and nights. I was around. You were also working construction then." "I could have helped." "Yes." "Did you ask?" "No." His eyes narrowed. "Why not?" I turned one page of the binder. "Because when I asked, you'd come. Usually. And then Dad would act like you'd saved the farm because you gave up one evening. So instead, you did everything and got mad. I didn't say it was healthy. That's what I mean. You set us up sometimes." The words hit, but not because they were entirely wrong. "I made it easy for you not to notice," I said. "Yes." "You still didn't notice." "No." We looked at each other across the binder. Travis dropped his pencil. "I liked you better when you just insulted me. I can go back, please don't." We returned to the records. I explained the notes. He made his own list. When he asked whether a cow should be sold, I gave him her history and stopped there. It frustrated him at first. "What would you do with 204? He asked. "She's yours." "I know she's mine." "Then decide. You know more about her. That's why I'm telling you what I know. She's had 7 calves, never missed, and weaned light twice." "Yes." So those are facts. Leah, Travis." He looked toward the ceiling. "Fine. I'm selling her." I felt an immediate urge to argue. Cow 204 was gentle, efficient, and had once stood completely still while I untangled wire from her hind leg. I kept my mouth shut. Travis saw my face. "You'd keep her." "I didn't say that." "You made the face." "What face?" "The funeral casserole face. That is Mom's face. You have it too." He drew a line through 204's number, then erased it. "Now you're changing your decision because of my face. This is impossible." "Welcome to management." He laughed despite himself. By 10:30, he had 18 numbers. 6 were clear choices. 7 were defensible. 5 were cows Dad would consider members of the family. Travis closed the binder. "I'll show Dad tomorrow. He'll blame me." I'll tell him you didn't choose. He'll blame me accurately then. The barn door opened before I could finish. Dad stood in the doorway wearing his brown work coat. Mom was behind him, still in her house shoes. I told him not to come, she said. Dad looked at the binder, then the legal pad. What are you doing? Travis turned on the stool, going through the herd. At 10:30 at night? That's when Leah had time. Dad stepped closer. You made a sale list. I made a list to discuss. You two decided this without me. We haven't decided anything. Dad picked up the legal pad. 204? There's nothing wrong with 204. I erased her. Then why is she here? Because I considered her. Dad's finger moved down the list. 236. Absolutely not. She's had 2 assisted births. She raised one of our best steers 4 years ago. She's sound. She was open once, Travis said. Lots of cows come up open, not ones eating hay we don't have. Dad threw the pad onto the workbench. This is what she wants. I stayed seated. Travis stood. She didn't pick them. She put the idea in your head. The feed usage put it in my head. We can buy hay. With what? Dad's face darkened. I've bought hay before. The tractor repair is going to be $6,000 if the pump is bad. The rental is $900 a week. We were already short before any of this. Dad looked at me. You happy now? No, could have fooled me. Travis moved between us. Quit saying that. This is her doing. No, the gate is her doing. The herd size is ours. Dad stared at him. For the first time since the supper, Travis did not look away. Mom stood just inside the barn, hugging her cardigan closed. Dad's voice dropped. You think you're running this place now? You told everybody I was. That doesn't mean you sell 18 cows without me. What did it mean? Dad had no answer ready. Travis waited, jaw tight. Finally, Dad picked up the legal pad. We'll discuss every number, he said. That was the plan. At my table. No, I said. Both of them looked at me. Travis reached out and took the pad from Dad. We'll do it at the machine shed, he said. Neutral ground. Dad left without agreeing. Mom followed, then paused long enough to mouth thank you at me for something I wasn't sure I had done. Travis put the binder under his arm. You okay? He asked. No, me neither. Good meeting. Very productive. They settled on 14 cows. Dad removed 236 from the list and added 2 younger cows Travis wanted to keep. Travis argued for an hour, then let him have one. They kept 236. The sale was on a cold Thursday morning. I intended to work, but Travis called while I was opening the store. I'm not asking you to do anything, he said. That sentence is getting a lot of use. Will you come? Why? Because Dad's acting like I'm driving his cows off a cliff. Are you? Only 14. That was a joke. I know, it wasn't very comforting. I looked at Rhonda. She was close enough to hear and made a shooing motion with both hands. I can come for an hour, I said. The sale barn smelled like manure, coffee, and wet wool coats. Cattle bawled behind steel gates while men leaned over the rails assessing animals they had no intention of buying. Dad stood beside the Mercer pen with his hands deep in his coat pockets. He did not greet me. Travis was checking tag numbers against the list. Melanie held the clipboard. Cow 204 was not there. Cow 236 was. I looked at Travis. Dad changed his mind this morning, he said quietly. Dad heard him. She's a sound cow. Travis did not argue. 236 watched us through the rails chewing hay. I remembered her fever, the smell of iodine, and Dad sitting on an overturned bucket because pneumonia had taken the strength out of his legs. I touched the white patch on her forehead. Don't, Dad said. I lowered my hand. When the Mercer cows entered the ring, Dad left the bleachers. Travis stayed. His knee bounced through the first 2 lots, then stopped. He watched every cow sell. He answered the auctioneer's questions and did not look at me for reassurance. The 14 brought a fair price. That did not make it feel good. Outside, I found Dad beside his truck. "You got what you wanted," he said. "I didn't want this." "You knew what shutting that gate would do. I knew it would stop your cows using my pasture. You knew we'd have to sell. I knew you had too many for your acreage. Same thing." "No." "What's the difference to 236? He opened his truck door before I could answer. The question followed me back inside. After the sale, Travis discovered Dad had taken his truck and left. "I can drive you," I said. He looked toward the empty parking space. "You don't have to." "I know." We rode for several miles with the heater clicking between too warm and too cold. Travis held the blue binder on his lap. "I thought bigger meant I was doing well," he said. "The herd? Everything. More cows. More pasture. Dad talking about me taking over. I thought if he trusted me with more, I'd finally feel like I knew what I was doing." "Did it work?" "No." I turned onto the county road. "I liked being needed," I said. He looked over. It was the closest Dad came to picking me. Every time he called, I got to be necessary for an hour. That's a terrible deal. Yes, you took it a lot. So did you. He watched the fields pass outside. Maybe we're both idiots. We are related. When we reached his house, Melanie was waiting on the porch. Travis opened the door, then stopped. "Thanks for coming today. You asked." "I know." He lifted the binder. "I'm going to do the records myself. Your handwriting is terrible. Then history will have to suffer." He shut the door. That evening, I drove past the north gate. The Mercer herd was smaller. There was room around the hay ring now, and no cows stood crowded against the fence. The gate remained locked. For the first time, it looked less like the cause of everything and more like what it had always been, a boundary. It stayed shut through the first hard freeze. Frost whitened the chain. The cows stopped gathering there and began waiting near the south feeder instead. Travis returned the rented loader after Dad's tractor came home with a rebuilt pump and a bill nobody mentioned around me. He also started hauling feed 3 evenings a week for a mill outside Fulton. I learned that from Rhonda's cousin. "You could ask your brother things," Rhonda said. "That would damage your information network. It needs competition." Travis came into the store more often, but our conversations stayed practical. 20% cubes or 14? He asked one afternoon. "What are you feeding?" "Dry cows on decent hay. 14, Dad says 20. Then why ask me?" "Because Dad also thinks adding molasses makes everything 20%. I sold him 14% cubes. He paid at the register, took the receipt, and loaded the bags himself. Before leaving, he placed a paper cup beside my elbow. "No favor," he said. "You should trademark that. Melanie says it sounds threatening." "She's right." He went out through the warehouse. The coffee was black with 1 packet of sugar, exactly how I drank it. Mom began stopping by on Tuesdays. She always bought something small, a packet of garden seeds in December, a new oven mitt we did not sell, once a bottle of horse shampoo despite owning no horse. After the horse shampoo, I told her she was allowed to visit without constructing a retail excuse. "I like supporting your work," she said. "You've spent $27 on things you don't need. The economy appreciates me." She started coming through the receiving door with coffee for Rhonda and no casserole carriers. We talked about her church committee, the faucet Dad refused to replace, and whether Ann Elaine's walking group friend had been line dancing with a married dentist. We did not talk about the gate. Dad did not visit at all. Then Mom called at 3:40 on a Thursday afternoon, and before I answered, I knew something had happened because she did not call twice. "Your father's hurt." The store disappeared around me. "What happened?" The feeder slipped. He fell. I can't get him up. "Is he conscious?" "He's yelling at me to stop calling people. That means yes." "Did you call an ambulance?" He said not to. "Call 1. Leah, call 1 now. I'm leaving." Rhonda had already taken the keys from my hand. "I'll drive," she said. "You need to run the store. I can do both badly. I'm fine. You're white as paper." "I'm always white." "You're glowing." I took the keys back and drove. Dad was sitting in the frozen mud beside the south feeder when I arrived. Mom had put an old quilt around his shoulders. His left arm was tucked against his chest, and one side of his face had a streak of dirt from temple to jaw. The steel feeder leaned at an angle behind him. A bottle jack lay on its side. "What were you doing?" I asked. "Fixing it." "With your head?" "My wrists hurt." "Your head appears involved." "I didn't hit my head." "Then why is your face dirty?" "I was on the ground." "That's where people's heads go when they fall." Mom stood behind him with both hands pressed to her mouth. An ambulance turned up the lane. Dad heard it and glared at her. "I told you no. I called," I said. "You weren't here." "I called while driving. That's illegal. So is dying to avoid a medical bill. I'm not dying." The paramedics agreed with him on that, but not much else. They put his arm in a temporary splint and insisted on taking him to the hospital because he had become dizzy when they helped him stand. Dad argued until one of them asked whether he wanted to walk to the ambulance. He accepted the stretcher. At the hospital, Mom sat with her purse in her lap and answered every question addressed to Dad. "No allergies," she said. "I'm allergic to incompetence," Dad said. The nurse continued typing. "Any medications?" "Blood pressure," Mom said. "Cholesterol. Baby aspirin." "Half a baby aspirin," Dad corrected. "There's no such thing. I break it." The nurse looked at me. "I'm not responsible for his pharmacology," I said. X-rays showed a fractured left wrist and 2 cracked ribs. His head scan was clear. He would need a cast, pain medication, and at least 6 weeks without lifting, pushing, pulling, climbing, or doing anything Dad considered worth doing. When the doctor said that, Dad stared at the wall. Travis arrived still wearing his feed mill jacket. Melanie came behind him with Mom's phone charger, a clean sweater, and crackers nobody ate. "What happened?" Travis asked. "Feeder got me," Dad said. "You tried to straighten that bent skid by yourself? It needed doing. I told you I'd do it Saturday. It's Thursday." "Exactly." Dad looked at the television mounted near the ceiling. Travis rubbed both hands down his face, leaving a streak of grain dust beside his nose. "You could have called me. You were working. That's why phones exist." Dad's eyes moved to me, then away. The nurse returned with discharge papers. Mom immediately handed them to me. I took them. Then I looked at the papers, looked at her, and handed them to Travis. His eyebrows went up. "You're running the farm," I said. "You need to know what he can't do." Dad shifted on the bed. "I'm sitting right here, and you already tried to negotiate no lifting into light lifting. It means nothing over 20 pounds. It means nothing," Melanie said. Dad looked betrayed. He had expected better from her. Travis read every page. He asked the nurse how Dad should sleep with cracked ribs and whether the cast could get wet. Dad interrupted twice. Travis kept reading. "We got him home after 8. Mom had eaten nothing since breakfast, so I made scrambled eggs and toast in her kitchen. Melanie found an ice pack. Travis took Dad's muddy boots outside and came back with the bent bottle jack in one hand. "You put the feeder on this?" he asked. Dad sat at the kitchen table with his left arm elevated on 2 sofa pillows. It held. Until it didn't. I had blocks. "Where?" "In the shed." Travis stared at him. "That's not the same as using them." Dad picked up a fork with his right hand and attacked the eggs. "They're dry," he said. "They're eggs, not soup," Mom said. I put the skillet in the sink. Dad chewed, swallowed, and looked at Travis. "You'll need to feed mornings until I'm back." "Obviously. And check the north bunch at night." "There is no north bunch. The cow's by the north fence. They moved south weeks ago. You know which ones I mean." Travis sat across from him. "I'm hauling feed 3 nights. Then Leah can check them those nights." Nobody spoke. Dad looked at me as if the answer had already been entered somewhere. "No," I said. His fork stopped. "For God's sake, Leah, I have a broken wrist. I know. I'm asking for help. You're assigning me a shift. What difference does it make how I say it?" "A large one." Mom sat down slowly. Dad's face reddened. "You're really doing this now?" "I drove to the farm, called the ambulance, followed you to the hospital, stayed through the scan, filled your prescription, brought you home, and cooked your supper. Eggs. Very dry eggs. Still food. You know what I mean? I do. You mean the farm. It needs to run. Yes, I can't do it. No. He waited. The room tightened around that one word. I sat across from him. I'll drive Mom to appointments. I'll bring groceries. I'll help you shower if you can't manage, though neither of us will enjoy it. I will not take over the farm because you got hurt. After everything we've done for you. Mom closed her eyes. Travis looked down at the discharge papers. I felt the old answer rise. Gratitude, apology, surrender. It was so practiced I could almost hear myself giving it. As your daughter, I'm here, I said. My labor is not proof that I love you. Dad pushed his plate away. That sounds like something off a greeting card. It wouldn't fit. Travis made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. He covered it by coughing. Dad glared at him. I've got the farm, Travis said. You can't do mornings and haul at night. I can for a few weeks. 6, then 6. You'll run yourself into the ground. Maybe, but it's my decision. Dad leaned back and winced when his ribs touched the chair. The cattle come first. No, Melanie said. All 3 Mercers turned toward her. She stood beside the counter with her arms folded. Travis comes first to me, she said. The cattle are going to be fed, but if this becomes impossible, you hire help or sell more. He does not get broken because you are. Dad's expression moved from surprise to injury deeper than his ribs. This is my farm. Yes, Melanie said. That means the consequences are yours too. Mom reached for the ice pack and pressed it gently against Dad's side. He let her. I washed the skillet while Travis made a feeding schedule on the back of Dad's discharge instructions. He did not include my name. When I left, he followed me to the porch. Thank you, he said. For what? The hospital. I didn't do it for the farm. I know. Cold air came off the fields. The north gate was a black shape beyond the yard light. If I get stuck, can I call you? He asked. You can always call. That's not what I mean. I pulled on my gloves. Ask me for the specific thing you need, I said. I'll answer that specific question. He nodded. Fair. Do you need something now? No. Then look at you. Growth. The next morning, I brought Mom groceries before work. Dad sat on the porch in a coat draped over his shoulders, cast resting against his chest. Travis was already feeding with the repaired tractor. You don't need to supervise, I said. I'm drinking coffee. You're wearing binoculars. They were by the door. I set the grocery bags inside. On my way back out, Dad said, The waterer by the south lot sticks when it gets this cold. Travis knows. Did you tell him? He replaced the valve. Dad looked toward the trough. He used pipe tape? You'd have to ask him. He lowered the binoculars. You could check the cows before work, he said. I looked at him. His jaw shifted. Would you? He tried. It was the first request I could remember that had not arrived dressed as my duty. Not today, I said. I have inventory. Dad's face closed. Then, after a moment, he nodded. All right. I walked to my truck. Behind me, the porch chair creaked. Leah. I turned. Thanks for the ambulance, he said. It was not enough. It was not nothing. You're welcome, I said. Dad found 17 different ways to resent his cast. It itched. It was too tight in the morning and too loose at night. The plastic bag Mom taped over it for showers leaked, although Dad refused to explain how he knew because he also claimed he was not taking showers until the doctor removed it. On the 3rd day, Mom called me from the pharmacy. He wants a knitting needle. No. I told him that. He'll stick it inside the cast and tear his skin. I told him that too. Why are you calling me? Because he says you'll understand. I looked at the phone. Tell him I said a wooden spoon. Leah. I'm kidding. I knew that. You called anyway. Mom lowered her voice. He's driving me insane. Go line dancing. I do not line dance. Anna-Lane knows someone. She hung up on me. I brought dinner twice that week. Not because Mom asked, and not because Dad deserved better than her tuna casserole, which had become alarmingly dry since his comment about my eggs. I brought it because I wanted to. The first night, Dad thanked me for the meatloaf and then asked if I had checked the South Waterer. The second night, he thanked me for the soup and did not mention cattle until dessert. Progress in the Mercer family had to be measured with delicate instruments. Travis kept feeding mornings, working the farm through the day, and hauling for the mill 3 evenings a week. I saw the tractor lights before sunrise and after dark. He stopped coming into the store for coffee because he no longer had time to drink it. Melanie came in on a Wednesday for work gloves. "His have holes," she said. "What size?" "Large." I showed her 3 kinds. She picked the most expensive pair. "He'll complain," I said. "He can do it with warm fingers." At the register, she added 2 tubes of muscle cream and a package of boot insoles. "How's he doing?" I asked. "He says fine." "That bad?" "He falls asleep before he takes his boots off. Dad said he could hire help. Dean says many things in rooms where nobody can invoice him." I rang up the gloves. "Do you want me to talk to Travis?" "About what?" "Cutting back the feed runs, hiring somebody for mornings, something." Melanie put her card into the reader. "No." The answer caught me. "You look surprised," she said. "I am. You're not the only person who gets to stop managing him. I wasn't trying to manage. You were going to offer 3 solutions before he asked for one." I opened my mouth, closed it. Melanie smiled without unkindness. "It's irritating, isn't it?" "Deeply." "He knows he can call you." "Yes." "Then let him." She took the bag of gloves and left me with my own advice. He called at 6:40 the next evening. "I have a specific thing," he said. "That sounds ominous. The mill sent a truck to the wrong county. I won't be home until at least 11. Melanie has a dinner for work." "Okay. Can you check the South Waterer around 8 and make sure 417's calf is in the windbreak? He's had a cough." I leaned against my kitchen counter. "Did you treat him?" Temperature was normal. I gave him the long-acting antibiotic yesterday because his breathing sounded rough. "How much?" 6 cubic centimeters. "For his weight?" "About 240. "That's right." A small silence followed. "So?" Travis asked. I almost told him to call Dad. Then I pictured Dad in the dark with one working hand, trying to climb a frozen gate because a calf had chosen the wrong side of it. "Yes," I said. "I'll check once at 8. "Thank you. Use words with Melanie. Don't just buy flowers at a gas station." "What?" She came for work gloves. "Oh, take your boots off before you fall asleep. Are you checking the cows or adopting me? Goodbye, Travis." I drove to Dad's place by the county road. The north gate stayed locked. Mom had left the porch light on. Dad saw my headlights and came outside in his coat, cast tucked against his chest. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "Travis asked me to check the Waterer and 417's calf. He called you." "Yes. He could have called me." "You're injured. I can look at a trough. You can also turn a trough inspection into a fence repair." He followed me toward the south lot. "Doctor said walking is good." Did he say walking over frozen ruts in the dark was good? He wasn't that specific. "Go inside. This is my farm. And your body. Apparently you're neglecting both." Dad came anyway. The Waterer had a thin shelf of ice along the back, but the valve was working. I broke the ice with my boot and watched the basin refill. 417 stood near the windbreak. Her calf was tucked behind her, head low but eyes bright. I listened to his breathing while Dad held the flashlight badly with his right hand. "Point it at the calf," I said. "I am." "You're lighting Ohio." He adjusted the beam. The calf coughed once, dry and shallow. "He needs another temperature in the morning," I said. "I know." "Then tell Travis. I can take it." "With one hand?" "I still own 2. You own 1 functional hand and 1 club." Dad looked at the cast. "They should have made it black." "Why? White shows dirt. It's been 4 days." "That's what I mean." I laughed before I could stop myself. He looked pleased, which irritated me. So I stood up. "The calf's okay tonight." We walked toward the house. At the edge of the lot, Dad stopped and looked north. Frost shone across my pasture beneath the moon. "Grass held up good," he said. "It usually does. You could have grazed harder this fall." "I didn't want to. Wouldn't hurt it." I know. He started to say something else, then glanced at me. You planning to keep those 11 cows? Yes. Breed them back the same way? Yes. He waited. What? I asked. I was going to ask what bull. The correction was awkward enough to be real. Red Angus from the Miller place, I said. Lower birth weights. Those calves can be narrow. Some. You checked his daughters? 4 years of them. Dad nodded. Good. He did not call them hobby cows. Inside, Mom had made tea. Dad sat at the table while I texted Travis about the calf. Dad watched my phone. You said no, but then you came. Travis asked me for 1 check. I agreed to 1 check. So if he asks the right way, you'll help. If I want to. That sounds like making him beg. He didn't beg. You know what I mean? Yes. Dad rubbed the edge of his cast against the table. If he asked to use the pasture for a week, I'd say no. Then asking doesn't change anything. It changes whether he gets to know the answer before announcing it to 60 people. Mom set the tea kettle down harder than necessary. Dad looked at her. What? Nothing, she said. That wasn't nothing. It was a kettle. He turned back to me. You're still holding that night over us. No. That night is just when I stopped. Stopped what? I looked at Mom. She picked up her tea and sat across from Dad. Making everything quieter, she said. Dad frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like. He waited for one of us to translate. Neither of us did. When Travis came home after 11, he texted thank you. The next afternoon, he left a paper bag on my porch containing new work gloves in my size. The note said, Melanie says yours are as bad as mine. No favor. Still, seriously. I wore them Saturday while replacing warped boards on my windbreak. Travis's truck appeared around 10. He parked by the barn and got out carrying a drill. What are you doing? I asked. Returning a cow check. That wasn't a trade. Then I'm helping because I want to. I looked at the drill. Did you ask? Can I help? Yes. We replaced 8 boards. Travis measured 2 quickly and cut 1 short. I handed it back without comment. I know, he said. I didn't say anything. You have a loud face. By noon, the wind had strengthened. We worked with our collars up, passing screws back and forth. How's Dad? He asked. Mad at his cast. He tried to drive the tractor yesterday. What? I took the keys. That must have gone well. He said I was treating him like an old man. I said old men have better judgment. That was brave. It was stupid. Those travel together, too. Travis leaned the drill against the fence. He called me ungrateful. I drove a screw halfway into the board and stopped. For taking the keys? For selling the cows? For listening to you? For not opening the gate myself? He told you to open it? He said if I were serious about the farm, I'd stop letting you hold it hostage. My grip tightened on the drill. What did you say? I said it wasn't his gate to open. The wind moved dry grass along the fence line. Thank you, I said. Don't make it meaningful. I hate that. Too late. He picked up the short board and examined it like the wood might have grown since he cut it. I used to think you and Dad fought because you were too much alike, he said. Mom says that. Mom says that about anyone who raises their voice. True. I don't think you're alike. Also meaningful. Quit it. We finished the windbreak by 2. When Travis left, he did not take the extra lumber or my drill. He also did not leave anything of his behind. Dad's cast came off 4 weeks later. The doctor replaced it with a brace and extended the lifting restriction because the fracture had not healed as quickly as Dad believed it should. That evening, I found him sitting at the kitchen table with the feed statement spread in front of him. Travis sat beside him with a calculator. Mom was reading a novel in the living room. Dad pointed at one line. That delivery includes the Miller hay? No, Travis said. Different invoice. Then why is freight this high? Because you ordered 6 bags after I placed the main order. I needed them. I'm not arguing, I'm showing you. Dad looked up when I entered with groceries. His eyes moved from me to the statements. For one dangerous second, I thought he would slide them toward my chair. Instead, he tapped the page with his pencil. "We've got it," he said. I put the groceries away. They argued about freight for 20 more minutes. Nobody asked me to settle it. The kitchen was not quiet, it was better. Dad and Travis developed a system. Dad asked a question. Travis answered it. Dad explained why the answer was wrong. Travis did what he had planned in the first place. At supper, they reviewed the result, and each claimed the other had agreed. Mom stopped translating. When Dad said, "Tell Travis we need more bedding," she said, "He's in the machine shed." When Travis said, "Can you explain to Dad why that hay isn't free just because Bud hasn't billed us yet?" She handed him the phone. By February, Mom was sleeping better than she had in years. "You should have locked a gate sooner," she told me. "I'll keep that in mind." The cast had been gone for weeks, but Dad still wore the brace when his wrist ached. He hated it less after he discovered people offered to carry things when they saw it. "Manipulative," Mom said. "Efficient," Dad said. The Mercer herd settled into its smaller shape. Travis grouped the cows by calving date, which Dad had always claimed was unnecessary because they'll calve when they calve. He also repaired the roof on the south shed. I watched sheets of new metal appear one row at a time. That shed had leaked for 6 years. Every winter, Dad said he would fix it after calving. Every spring, there was fencing. Every summer, hay. Every fall, harvest. Then calving came again and the cows moved through the north gate to my barn. Travis stripped the old roof down to rafters, replaced 2 rotten boards, and installed the metal properly. The first hard rain left the floor dry. He sent me one word: fixed. I sent back a thumbs up. He replied, "That feels sarcastic?" It was not sarcastic. Worse. I smiled at my phone. At the store, we began stacking calf bottles, colostrum replacer, and ear tags near the front. Calving supplies had their own smell: rubber, iodine, plastic, and anxiety. Dad came in on a Monday morning carrying a list. Rhonda saw him and said, "I need to count gloves." "There's still plenty," I said. "Could have changed." Dad waited until she left. "I need sleeves, iodine, and 2 new chains. Aisle 6. "I know." He stood at the counter. "What?" "Travis says the chains with the flat links are better. They're easier on the calf's legs." "That what you use?" "Yes." He set 2 packages on the counter. "You have the long handles for these?" "Bottom shelf." I didn't see them. "That means you looked above waist level." He went back to aisle 6 and returned with handles. I rang everything up. He paid without mentioning the discount. "How many do you have close?" I asked. 4 in the next 10 days. Maybe 6. Travis grouped them. I heard. He likes lists, I've noticed. Dad folded his receipt. "South shed's dry." I heard that too. He did a good job. Yes. He should have put the overlap the other direction on the east side. Did it leak? No. Then he did a good job. Dad tucked the receipt into his wallet. That's what I said. A weather system moved in 3 days later. The forecast began as rain, changed to freezing rain, then settled on sleet, wind, and 6 inches of wet snow. The county treated roads before the first drop fell. At the store, customers bought every heated bucket, extension cord, and bag of ice melt we had. Travis came in an hour before closing. Dad bought calf chains, he said. I sold them to him. He bought 2. That's what the receipt suggested. We already had 3. 1 was rusted, then throw away 1. He'll keep all 5 until the barn sinks. I handed him the last bucket heater from behind the counter. "You holding out on customers." I held it for the man with a coughing calf and no employee discount. He took it. "How close are the heifers?" I asked. 1 separating. Another could go tonight. "South shed ready?" "Bedded, lights working, panels set." "Good." He hesitated. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." "That's rarely true. Dad wants me to ask if we can use your barn if the power goes out. What does the power have to do with my barn? He says your generator is more reliable. He means I maintain mine." "Yes. No." I already told him. "Told him what?" "That you'd say, no." "You didn't ask. I'm asking now." "No." "Great. I've completed my diplomatic mission." He put the bucket heater under one arm. What if you lose power? I asked. Portable generator in the machine shed. Tested this morning. Fuel? Full. Extension cords? 3. Heat lamp? I'm not using a heat lamp around dry bedding. I nodded. Travis looked offended. You could act surprised I know things. You've always known things. You spent several months suggesting otherwise. I suggested you didn't notice things. That's different? It is on a farm. He considered that, then nodded. Fair. The sleet started before we closed. It clicked against the store windows like handfuls of dry rice. Rhonda sent the employees home, then refused to leave until my truck was running. Text me when you get there, she said. You live 3 blocks away, and you live beside people who repair feeders with bottle jacks. I drove slowly. By dark, the fences shone under a skin of ice. Wind pressed snow against the north side of my barn. My cows gathered in the east windbreak. Travis and I had repaired. I fed extra hay, checked the generator, filled buckets, and listened to the storm strike the roof. Across the fence, lights burned in the south shed. At 9:30, Dad called. Travis has one in labor. Okay, he's been watching her 2 hours. Is she progressing? Says she is. Then let him watch. The power's flickering. He has a generator. You know how he gets when he thinks he has to prove something. I almost laughed at the lack of self-awareness. Dad, are you asking me to go over? I'm telling you there's a heifer in labor during an ice storm. That's not an answer. He exhaled into the phone. Would you go check? Did Travis ask? Why does that matter? Because he's handling the farm. I own the farm. And you called me because you don't trust the man you named farmer of the family. Silence. That isn't fair, Dad said. No, he's doing a good job. Yes. He doesn't have your experience. He needs a chance to get it. What if he loses the calf? What if you make him second-guess a decision that's working? Wind rattled the kitchen vent. Dad lowered his voice. You would have checked already before. I know. Doesn't that bother you? Yes. That silenced him more effectively than anger. I'm not sleeping either, I said. But this is his call. Dad hung up without saying goodbye. At 10:18, Travis called. I have a specific thing. I was already wearing my coat. What is it? 2 feet, but the nose keeps disappearing. She's been pushing hard 20 minutes. I think the head's turned back. Can you reach it? Barely. I can get my fingers behind the jaw, but she strains and I lose it. Is she standing? Down now. Do you want advice or hands? He took one breath. Hands. I'm coming. I drove the road. The trip took 7 minutes in good weather and 19 in sleet. I passed the north gate halfway there, chain shining in my headlights. It stayed shut. Travis had the heifer in the small pen inside the south shed. The new roof hammered above us, but the bedding was dry. Dad stood by the wall in his brace, holding a flashlight. Melanie worked the gate. Mom had brought towels and arranged them in a neat stack no cow would respect. Everyone looked at me when I entered. You came the long way, Dad said. The gate's locked. I know. Travis was stripped to a t-shirt despite the cold, one sleeve rolled over his shoulder, head's back on her left. I pulled on a plastic sleeve. You have the chains ready? On both feet, above the dew claw, half hitched below. Good. He had done it right. I knelt behind the heifer. Travis kept one hand on her hip. Tell me what you need, he said. Hold the leg steady. Don't pull. I found the calf's muzzle turned along its shoulder. The heifer strained and forced my arm against bone. Easy, I said. The same useless word I had given 417. Travis crouched beside me. Can you get it? Maybe. Helpful. Family trait. I worked 2 fingers into the calf's mouth, cupped the jaw, and pushed the body backward just enough to create room. Travis leaned his weight against the feet without pulling. The head came forward. Now, I said. He attached the handles, waited for the heifer's next contraction, and pulled low. Not too hard. Not too fast. The calf slid onto the straw. For 1 second, he lay still. Then he shook his head and sneezed fluid across Dad's boots. Dad laughed. It burst out of him, loud, relieved, and surprised. Travis sat back on the bedding. His hands trembled. "Bull calf," he said. "Looks like." The heifer lifted her head and began licking him. Dad stepped forward. "You did good," he told Travis. Travis looked at me. "He did," I said. Dad's face changed. He heard that the answer belonged to me only because he had waited for it. Travis stood and peeled off his glove. "Thank you for coming." "You asked." "I did." Mom handed me a towel. I brought soup. "Of course you did. It's at the house. Is it dry?" That was one casserole. We waited until the calf nursed. The lights flickered twice, but the generator never had to start. When I left, Dad walked me to my truck. "You could keep a key on this side," he said. "To what?" "The gate." "No, I'm not asking to use the pasture." "I know. Just for emergencies. I use the road. In weather like this?" "I got here." Dad looked toward the dark line of fence. "You really meant it," he said. "Yes." I kept thinking there'd be some circumstance that opened it. An emergency isn't a key to everything. He rubbed his wrist beneath the brace. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "Do what?" "Talk to you without saying it wrong. That hasn't stopped you before." The corner of his mouth moved. Snow gathered on the shoulders of his coat. "Can I come over tomorrow?" he asked. "For what?" "To talk." I waited. "No bills," he added. "No cattle, no bolt cutters. Use the road." He nodded. At 2 the next afternoon, Dad knocked on my front door. He had never knocked before. I opened the door. Dad stood on the porch with his cap in both hands. Snow clung to his boots, and the brace showed beneath his coat sleeve. "You gonna let me in?" "You knocked." "I wasn't prepared. I can do it again. That might be showing off." I stepped aside. He wiped his boots on the mat without being asked. That was almost as unusual as the knock. The kitchen table held my coffee cup, a seed catalog, and the roll of paper towels I had forgotten to put away. Dad looked at the chairs as though one might have been assigned to him incorrectly. "You want coffee?" I asked. "Sure. You can say no. I want coffee." Good start. He sat while I poured it. I did not set sugar beside him because he had drunk coffee black for as long as I had known him. He added milk at Mom's house sometimes, but only when he thought no one was watching. He wrapped his right hand around the mug. "You have a nice place," he said. "I've had it 8 years. I've been here. You've been inside to use the bathroom and once to tell me a cow was out. Twice. The other time you were looking for Travis." Dad considered correcting me, then drank his coffee. Outside, the wet snow began sliding from the barn roof in heavy sections. "I thought you'd open the gate after the sale," he said. "I know. Then I thought maybe after I got hurt." "I know. Then last night." "Yes." He looked toward the window, though the gate could not be seen from the kitchen. I kept thinking it was leverage. For what? An apology. Recognition. Something. I did want those. But you didn't open it when I got close. You didn't get close until recently. His mouth tightened, but he let that go. I thought if I said the right thing, everything would go back. "I know. Quit saying that. I'm not trying to be irritating. You come by it naturally. So do you." He took another drink. "The gate stayed shut because you weren't trying to make me do something," he said. "You were done doing something yourself." "Yes." He nodded once, looking down into the mug. "That took me too long." "Yes." He looked up. "Sorry." Still true. Dad rubbed his thumb along the handle. "I didn't know what you did. You knew some of it. I knew you helped. You called it helping because that made it sound temporary." His jaw shifted. "I knew you kept records. I knew you ordered supplies. I knew you checked cows. You knew I did each thing when you needed it. You didn't put the things together. No, and you didn't want to." He leaned back, then winced when the chair pressed his ribs. I thought the farm was running because we all did our parts. Your part, Travis's part, my part, Mom's part. Yes. Did we choose them? Dad stared at the paper towel roll. I chose mine. Exactly. He frowned at me. I came here to apologize, not take a test, then apologize. I'm trying. You keep circling it. I don't know how you want it. I don't want a version I ordered. He pushed away from the table and walked to the window. For a man who had claimed he wanted to talk, Dad seemed surprised by how many words were involved. My 11 cows stood near the east windbreak. A calf-shaped patch of dirty snow showed where one had bedded down earlier. You bought this place without asking my advice, Dad said. I was 31. I know how old you were. Do you? He glanced at me. That sounded worse than I meant. You're having a day. Dad looked back outside. I thought you bought it to stay close. I did. I thought that meant you wanted to be part of the farm. I did. Then what did I misunderstand? Part of isn't the same as absorbed by. He rubbed his wrist through the brace. When you bought the Jessup place, I was proud of you. You called the barn roof a disaster and asked whether I'd considered renting the pasture to you. The roof was a disaster. You didn't say you were proud. I thought you knew. How? He turned from the window. I called you first. The answer came so quickly I almost missed what it meant. For what? When something happened. A sick cow, a bill, your mom needing a ride. If I was in trouble, I called you. And that was pride. It was trust. It felt like work. I see that now. Do you? Yes, Leah. He came back to the table but did not sit. Travis looks like me, he said. He talks like me. He gets excited by the same stupid ideas I got excited by. When he walks into the machine shed, I see myself 30 years ago, only with a cleaner shirt. He does love a clean shirt. Dad's mouth moved. You don't need me the same way, he said. That's not true. It is. You bought this place. You took that store department and made it profitable when everybody thought you were just good at inventory. You built your own herd. You called me when you chose the bull, and I told you what I'd do instead. I remember. I thought you were asking permission. I was trying to include you. He sat again. That's not a good feeling. What? Finding out you've been included and acting like you were in charge. The coffee maker clicked as the warming plate shut off. Dad folded and unfolded the edge of a paper towel. When I said Travis was the farmer, I was thinking about who'd be me next, he said. Not who had done the work. I liked the idea of him taking my place because then it meant my place still mattered. And me? You were the steady one. That isn't an answer. I thought you'd keep doing what you did. That's the answer. He looked at me. Yes. The word came out rough. I thought you'd keep the books, keep the cows straight, help your mother, lend the pasture. I thought you'd keep Travis from making mistakes and keep me from having to watch him make them. And nobody had to ask, no. Because I was strong. Dad shook his head. Because you never made me pay for not asking. That was closer than anything he had said. I sat across from him. I helped create that, I said. I fixed things before anybody saw they were broken. I covered bills, then got angry nobody noticed. I said yes and wanted credit for sacrifices I pretended weren't sacrifices. You shouldn't have had to ask for credit, no. But I should have told the truth sooner. Would I have listened? Probably not, then don't make my mistakes easier on me. The sentence was so purely Dad, I laughed. He did too, but his eyes had gone wet. He looked away and rubbed his face with his good hand. I am sorry, he said, for planning with your land, for the supper, for saying you weren't doing anything with it, for taking those bolt cutters over there. The hired help comment? He closed his eyes. That too. It was a memorable week. I was angry. You were mean. Yes. He forced himself to look at me. I was mean. The apology did not erase the toast. It did not restore the cows or remove 12 years of habit. It sat between us like a repaired board, new wood beside weathered wood, obvious but useful. Thank you, I said. Dad nodded. What happens now? The gate stays shut. His expression changed despite everything. Always? I don't know. Maybe. You won't even say someday. No. He stared into his coffee. You can visit, I said. You can ask me for help. I might say yes. I might say no. I'm not doing the farm's books. Your cattle don't graze here. My barn is mine. I heard you the first 9 times. I'm making sure. What if I forget? I'll remind you. What if I ask wrong? I'll probably remind you loudly. He sighed. I don't like this arrangement. You don't have to. That's irritating, I've heard. Dad stayed for another hour. We walked to my barn where the empty hooks no longer looked quite so accusatory. He inspected the repaired windbreak and found the board Travis had cut short. That his? He asked. Yes. Knew it. He helped for 4 hours. He still cuts too fast. Dad watched my cows eat. He asked about breeding dates and waited for my answer. He suggested moving one feeder 12 feet east. He was right, which was unfortunate. Before leaving, he stood at the end of my driveway. I should talk to Travis. Probably. What do I say? Not my job, worth a try. At Sunday supper, Dad asked Travis to stay at the table after Mom cleared the plates. Melanie and I started to help with dishes. Mom shooed us away. I have a system, she said. Her system appeared to involve leaving every pan in the sink, but I respected it. Dad sat across from Travis. His brace lay on the table beside him. I owe you an apology, he said. Travis glanced at me. Don't, I said. I didn't write it. Dad frowned. Could you let me have one conversation? I held up both hands. Travis turned back to him. For what? For telling everybody you were taking over, then fighting every decision you made. That's a broad category. I'm starting broad. Dad spoke badly, stopped, tried again, and occasionally blamed his generation for things entirely specific to him. Travis listened with his arms folded. He did not rescue Dad from the uncomfortable parts. When Dad finished, Travis said, I liked what you said at the supper. I know. I wanted to be the farmer. I know. I just didn't understand you meant I'd be the farmer while you kept deciding everything and Leah made it work. Dad rubbed his wrist. I didn't understand that either. You understand now? Some days. Travis nodded. Fair. Dad slid the feed calculator across the table. You decide herd size for spring. Travis looked at it. You mean we decide? No. I mean you decide and we discuss it. That sounds dangerous. It is. What if I sell 236? Dad's eyes narrowed. Then we discuss it a lot. Melanie laughed first. Mom laughed from the sink. Even Dad did, eventually. The farm did not transform because 4 adults managed one honest conversation. Dad still called me 3 days later to ask when Travis had ordered mineral. I told him to call Travis. He groaned, but he did. Travis still forgot to return a socket he borrowed from the store's demonstration kit. I charged him for it. He returned it the next morning and called me vindictive. Mom brought me a casserole with no invoice beneath it. The snow melted. Water ran along the fence line, carrying bits of straw and last season's leaves. Green showed first on the high ground of my pasture. Travis stopped at the north gate one afternoon while I was repairing a brace post. He stayed on his side. I have a specific question, he said. About cattle? No. Concerning. He pointed to the fence 10 feet east of the locked vehicle gate. What would you think about a walk-through gate? I straightened. For what? Visiting. Coffee. Helping with fence when invited. Walking all the way around by road is stupid. It's 7 minutes. It's a stupid 7 minutes. You want easier access. I want access you can close. The words settled between us. Travis rubbed the back of his neck. It would be yours, he said. Latch on your side. I don't come through unless I ask. If you say no, I stay here. You thought this through. Melanie made me practice. I can tell. He took a folded feed store calendar from his coat pocket. Don't, I said. He grinned. On the back, he had drawn one small rectangle in the fence. No cows, no barn, no circles, just a gate. I looked at the drawing, then at my brother. Ask me again, I said. Can I build it? Yes. He smiled, but did not step across the boundary. When, he asked. After calving. Whose? Yours. He looked toward his south shed. The next heifer was already separating from the herd. Travis glanced toward the south shed, then back at me. I need to go. I'd be concerned if you didn't. He tucked the folded calendar into his coat and jogged toward his truck. Before climbing in, he pointed at the small rectangle he had drawn. After calving. Get through calving first. He drove away. By dark, the heifer was in the shed. I could see the lights through the bare trees. They stayed on for 3 hours. Dad called at 9:15. You watching? I noticed the lights. She's taking her time. First calf? Yes. Travis says she's making progress. Then she probably is. You going over? Did he ask? No. I waited. Dad cleared his throat. Then I guess you're not. I guess not. All right. He did not like it. I could hear that he did not like it, but he hung up without turning worry into an assignment. At 1:18 in the morning, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Heifer and bull calf good. Both up. Didn't need hands. I typed good and stared at it. Before I could send, 3 dots appeared. If you send a thumbs up, I'm blocking you. I erased good. You did good. His answer came a minute later. I know this is you, but it feels like Melanie stole your phone. I slept until the alarm. The rest of calving did not go perfectly because nothing involving cattle ever respected an emotional arc. One cow calved against a gate and bent a hinge. A heifer rejected her calf for 6 hours, then became so protective nobody could enter the pen without a panel between them. Dad lost his brace in the bedding and accused the dog of carrying it off until Mom found it under his truck seat. Travis called me twice. The first time, he wanted the dosage for a calf treatment because the label had smeared. I answered. The second time, he wanted to know whether I would look at a cow that had stopped eating 2 days after calving. Advice or hands? I asked. Eyes. I drove the road, examined her, and told him what I thought. He called the vet himself and handled the treatment. I went home. He did not use my barn. He did not ask for my pasture. He learned which corner of the south shed collected cold air and built a plywood barrier before the next storm. He entered every calving date in the blue binder, though his handwriting remained an offense against history. Dad began using the word ask, not consistently. Sometimes it arrived after the request. You can bring mineral when you come over, would you? No. Why not? 'Cause I'm not coming over today. Oh. Sometimes he got it right the first time. Would you pick up my prescription if you're in town? Yes. Once he called and said, Can you tell Travis the west fence is sagging? No. Would you tell him? No. Why not? Because you're holding a phone. He called Travis. Mom reported this as if she had witnessed a solar eclipse. Spring softened the fields. My cows calved later than Dad's herd, by design. They had easier births, also by design, and Dad stopped describing the low birth weight bull as narrow after my first 3 calves hit the ground vigorous and nursing. When it was time to vaccinate and tag, I stood in my barn looking at the portable panels. The job was possible alone. I had done it alone before. I could wrestle the panels into a working alley, move 11 cows, vaccinate 11 calves, and spend the next 2 days pretending my shoulder did not hurt. I called Travis. I have a specific thing. He laughed. That sounds ominous. I need another set of hands Saturday. Vaccinations and tags. 3 hours, probably 4, because you cut boards short. I cut 1 board short. It was memorable. I'll be there at 8. You can say no. I know. He arrived at 7:45 with coffee, breakfast sandwiches, and the blue binder. Why do you have that? I asked. Habit. My cattle are not going in your records. I know. I brought it to show you something. He opened to the current calving section. The entries were clean, complete, and nearly legible. Beside the first heifer under assistance, he had written none. You want a sticker? Yes. I'll see what we have at the store. We worked all morning. Travis operated the head gate while I vaccinated. Then we switched because his shoulder tired. He asked before changing my panel arrangement. I told him no because his idea was worse. He told me that sounded like Dad. I told him to leave my property. He didn't. Around 10, Dad came to the north gate. The heavy gate remained chained and locked, but the fence beside it was low enough for conversation. "You need help?" he called. "We've got it," I said. He looked at Travis, who was trying to convince a calf that reverse was an available direction. "Could use one more," Dad said. Travis braced both boots in the mud. "Could use 6 more." "We're fine," I said. Dad nodded. "All right." He stood there long enough to watch us tag 2 calves. Then he walked back toward the farmhouse. He did not offer advice. "He's sick," Travis said. "Probably. Should we check his temperature?" "After lunch." When the last calf was released, Travis leaned against the barn wall and opened a breakfast sandwich that had gone cold. "You could have done this alone," he said. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "I didn't want to." He looked at me. "That's it?" "That's enough." He nodded slowly. "Yeah." We ate in the barn doorway while my cows settled in the pasture. Travis told me he had decided not to replace the 14 cows sold in winter. He also planned to sell 3 late calving cows after weaning. "What does Dad think?" I asked. "He says it's too small a herd for the equipment. What do you think?" "The equipment was too big for the farm before I took over. That's a dangerous sentence." I didn't say it at supper. Growth. The smaller herd works. We have enough grass, enough hay, and enough room in the south lot without pretending your place is part of ours. He crumpled the sandwich wrapper. I wanted the expansion because it looked like progress. More cows, more ground, more risk. Dad understood that kind of progress. And now? Now I like sleeping. He gave up 2 of the feed mill routes after the tractor bill was paid. He kept Thursday evenings because, according to him, the truck radio was better than anything he got at home. Melanie said he kept it because he enjoyed delivering feed to people who thanked him before complaining. Dad called the herd reduction temporary. Then he called it practical. Eventually, he stopped naming it. After the last calf was tagged, Travis returned with a post-hole auger and the supplies for the walk-through gate. He parked on his side of the fence. I inspected the gate. "You bought a 4-foot opening. You said walk through. I might carry tools. You own narrow tools." "Take it back." He took it back. The next day, he arrived with a 5-foot gate. "Better?" he asked. "Acceptable. You're welcome." I paid for half. Then I'm welcome. We marked the opening 10 feet east of the north gate, where the fence crossed high, well-drained ground. Travis measured twice, looked at me, and measured a 3rd time to be insulting. Dad appeared while we were setting the first post. He wore work gloves and carried a level. "Can I help?" he asked. Travis and I exchanged a look. "What?" Dad said. "Nothing," we answered together. He came through the existing fence opening only after I removed the temporary wire. The north gate stayed chained. Dad checked the post. "Leans east." "The bubble's centered," Travis said. "The ground slopes. The gate doesn't care. It will when it swings open by itself. It's going to swing toward Leah's side." Dad looked at me. "That what you want?" "Yes." He handed me the level, then set the hinge post a 1/4 inch west. Travis opened his mouth. I checked the line. Dad was right again. It remained unfortunate. We poured concrete around both posts. Travis wanted to hang the gate immediately. Dad and I told him no at the same time. "You two are more alike every day," he said. "Leave," I told him. "I'm on my side." He was standing in wet concrete with one boot. We waited 2 days for it to set. Travis texted before coming over. "Can I hang the gate at 5? "Yes." "Dad coming too?" "Did he ask?" "He says he did in spirit." "Tell his spirit no." Dad knocked on my door at 4:50 carrying the latch hardware. "I'm asking now," he said. "You can help." He looked pleased with himself. We hung the gate so it opened toward my pasture. The latch sat on my side. From Dad's side, someone could reach through and lift it, but only if I had not dropped the small locking pin through the handle. Travis closed it and shook the top rail. Solid. Dad pointed at the heavy vehicle gate. "You leaving that chain?" "Yes. Rust will take it eventually. I'll replace it." He nodded. No argument. Travis stood on his side of the new gate. "Can I come through?" "Yes." He lifted the latch, stepped onto my pasture, and closed it behind him. Dad watched. "Can I?" he asked. "You're already over here. I mean, next time." "Ask next time." He shook his head. "This family's getting complicated." "It was always complicated," Travis said. "We just didn't have hardware." Mom's birthday arrived with warm weather and enough wind to keep flies off the food. She said she did not want a party, which meant she wanted dinner, cake, clean tablecloths, and fewer than 12 people. I offered my porch. Mom looked suspicious when I called. "Do you want a host?" "Yes. You don't have to." "I know." "Your father can grill." "No. He's good at it. He burns chicken and calls it smoke. He'll be hurt. He'll survive. His ribs healed." She paused. "You really want us there?" "Yes, Mom." "All right." Then, because change had limits, she asked what color tablecloths I planned to use. Travis and Melanie walked through the new gate carrying folding chairs and a covered bowl. He texted first, then knocked on my back door. "You know I can see you through the window," I said when I opened it. "I was told knocking matters." "It does." "Then don't undermine the process." Melanie handed me the bowl. "Deviled eggs. Don't let him carry them." I carried them across the pasture. 3 are damaged. Terrain. Dad and Mom drove the road because Mom's cake would not fit through the walk-through gate without becoming 2 cakes. Dad parked by my barn, then stood beside the north gate studying the lock. I joined him. "Chain needs oil," he said. "I know. Want me to do it?" "No, thanks." "All right." He followed me to the porch. Dinner was not peaceful. Aunt Elaine came with her line-dancing friend, whose name was Sharon, and whose hair looked normal enough to make Mom's original description unfair. Dad overcooked 2 steaks. Travis dropped a deviled egg between the porch boards and tried to retrieve it with a butter knife. Mom received 3 identical gardening hats because none of us had coordinated. It was the best family meal we had eaten in years. Nobody placed paperwork beside me. Nobody asked when the gate would open. Travis discussed feed costs with Dad and disagreed without looking at me to settle it. After cake, Dad tapped his fork against his glass. I froze. Travis noticed and put one hand over his smile. Dad stood. "This is about your mother," he said to me. "It better be." Mom adjusted one of her new hats. Dad thanked her for staying married to him despite 43 years of evidence. He thanked her for the food, though I had cooked most of it, then corrected himself before I could. "And Leah for dinner," he said. "Growth," Travis murmured. Dad gave him a look. "I made another toast last fall," Dad said. The porch quieted. I wished he had warned me. Then I understood that warning me would have been another way of asking me to make his words safe. I said Travis was the farmer of the family, he continued. I was proud of him. I am proud of him. But I said it like there was one place to stand and one person standing in it. Travis looked down at his plate. Dad turned toward me. For one frightened second, I thought he was going to name me the real farmer and build the same pedestal beneath a different pair of boots. He did not. "Travis runs the Mercer herd," he said. "He does it well. Leah runs her place. She does that well, too. They've both built lives on this land, and neither one is the other's backup." The wind moved through the cottonwoods. Dad lifted his glass toward Mom. "And Carol runs all of us." "I resigned," Mom said. Everybody laughed. Dad sat down. I looked at him across the table. "You did good," I said. "Don't sound so surprised." After dinner, Aunt Elaine and Sharon left first. Dad carried trash to my cans without reorganizing them. Mom wrapped the remaining cake and asked whether I wanted half instead of simply placing it in my refrigerator. "Yes," I said. She smiled. Travis and Melanie gathered their chairs. At the walk-through gate, Travis lifted the latch and waited. "What?" I asked. "Just appreciating my work." Dad set the hinge post. Traitor. He stepped through and closed the gate. The heavy north gate remained beside it, chain looped through the steel bars, lock dark against the metal. Grass grew thick on my side. Dad's smaller herd grazed farther south, no longer waiting for an opening that did not belong to them. I went inside and began stacking plates. A few minutes later, someone knocked. Travis stood at the back door holding Melanie's empty deviled egg bowl. "Forgot this," he said. "You could have walked in." "I know." He waited. I opened the door wider because I wanted to.